do you?
Earnings, you just have to
You have to have some good earnings growth now.
No, you have to have better than feared earnings.
Right.
Right? That's what you need. And that's what we had in the third quarter. And if you go into next year and you get 5% earnings growth, I think that could be fine when you have these other catalyzers there. Where I worry is as you get later in the year and comps get more difficult and you get into the kind of election cycle and you get into the possible regulatory environment where you could see financials getting regulated again, healthcare, whatever, technology even, right? I think that's where risk can manifest itself. But right now, I think it's a little safer to go in. The other thing that I would mention is last year was very precarious because there was a lot of opportunity for tax loss selling. This year, everything's up. You threw the paper at us. There's nothing that's down. Really, maybe MLPs have given some back, and there's an opportunity to take some losses there versus these gains, but there's no places to take losses. Then when you get into next year and you think, if I'm a capital allocator, where do I allocate money? Well, there's really no alternative to stocks. It's really hard.
That may be a fair point. There's no alternative to stocks, but there is an alternative to U.S. stocks.
And that's
I agree with that.
Relative value trade looks pretty enticing outside the U.S.
And that's why we added TM. That's exactly right.
I just want to chime in really quickly. So obviously we cover all institutional investors, and what we're seeing, Scott, is exactly what you're talking about. So when you think about the globe and the ability to invest in stocks globally, we're seeing 2-to-1 selling in the U.S., taking some of the profits off, but then reallocating into, just as you said, emerging markets and into the global markets. And you talk about asset allocators and large institutional investors that used to be 70-30 U.S. stocks. It's now the reverse.
But you can own multinational cyclicals.
Absolutely.
In the U.S.
Absolutely.
That have lagged materially. And I'm talking about in energy and industrials and materials. No one is in, and the positioning is that no one is in those spaces. So to your point.
It's a lot of pure play too, I think.
If you don't have, the conviction and you don't want to put a big allocation overseas, because it is a little bit more volatile, you have plenty of opportunity here to buy and have that exposure.
And we are global.
Yeah.
So
Scott, economic optimism came out this morning, and it was better than expected. To Steph's point about factory utilization and so forth, and capacities running, right up there at 77+%, I think. Those are all positives. As far as the rotations and laggards and things like that, yeah, there's a lot of that going on right now. It's almost like we're in the 5th or 6th round of a draft, where you're not getting folks. They can't pick Apple anymore because they've already picked Apple, right? Everybody has overpicked Apple. It's like, whether it's a fantasy.
But by the way,
give me the mid-round draft choice that's going to be a standout. Okay?
Well,
5th rounder.
So that's
who's going to make the Pro Bowl next year.
Okay.
Who's that?
Macy's.
I don't know about Pro Bowl, but I'll tell you where I'm seeing a lot of these folks that are, a lot of the stocks rather, personification, sorry about that. But a lot of these stocks that are catching some investors' eyes here are ones that they think still have upside, but have just been slammed. Now, as you guys know, I am involved in a cannabis ETF. Cannabis is one of the few areas, like Rob said, when you're looking around for things that are tax loss sold, this is that sector. Cannabis stocks, from Tilray to Canopy Growth, doesn't matter. They've all been sold. But to your point, Tupperware today, big pop out of Tupperware today. It's too small of a stock for us to mention in certain categories here on the show, but this one's making a nice big pop. It's just off the 52-week low, and if you look at multi years, you see people grabbing at stocks like this one, Scott.
Using your sports analogy, just to carry it a little further, everybody's drafting the great athletes, and the everybody's the ETFs. And so if markets go up, those athletes are going to continue to get the support, and they're going to continue to perform.
Well, there's one that's sitting out there, and everybody's like, man, it sure runs a fast 40-yard dash. It sure jumps high.
It's the Antonio Brown.
But it's lagged, and that's Amazon, which was one of J.P. Morgan's best internet ideas for 2020.
Digits, though. You're right. It's behind the market overall, but it's still double digits on the year.
Yeah, but it's substantially behind the market.
Well, because it's an investment year for Amazon, and the stock never outperforms when they're an investment year. But it does tend to outperform the year after an investment year, because that's when you see the benefits and the operating leverage. So this could set up very nicely.
This is a stock
for 2020. You own. I do own it, but it's much smaller. I've been trimming it along the way. I've made some good money. I've been putting it into Alphabet because I think it's cheaper, and I think there's more opportunity in the cloud.
Why have you been trimming it, though?
I'm profit-taking, very much like what we talked about the other week about Apple. It's just trimming. It's still an overweight position for me, but the valuation is pretty high. And again, it's an investment year. I would love for this thing to pull back, and then for 2020, really load up again, because I do believe you will see a good year out of the stock.
Some of these other names are kind of peculiar, Joe, on that list of the best internet ideas, as we sort of segue into a conversation about where you want to be positioned, and if technology is one of those spots. Facebook, Lyft, Peloton, Snap. All of those names have an overweight rating by JP Morgan analysts, and lofty targets in some cases.
Lofty targets in some cases. Facebook and Amazon, in a year where class size really seemed to matter, it was about large cap and mega cap in 2019. You asked before, where's the opportunity going to be for those middle round potential Pro Bowl players? I think you have to look in the small cap world, in the technology names and some of the emerging software names. I purchased DocuSign recently. That's an example of it. Even in financials, you've got some small cap financials like Ameriprise, AMP, Globe Life, GL, which is a life insurance company, or Aon, AON. So I think that's going to where you find that opportunity. So if I look at these 5 names, obviously I say to myself, well, Facebook and Amazon, that's where I'm going to get more of sustainability and earnings growth and more reliability in terms of performance. But then when I think about it in terms of size class, I would look towards Peloton, I would look towards Lyft, I would look towards Snap, because I believe in 2020 the environment is going to be conducive for outperformance for those 3 names.
So you don't think we're late cycle then? Because late cycle, there's a gravitational pull that's very powerful to large growth, right? So if the cycle continues, I think small caps, from a valuation perspective, relatively attractive, and there's going to be a huge play of catch-up. But if you're late cycle, it's going to be a totally different playbook. So
that's a great description, and I agree with you. And the proper measurement of are we late cycle would be, Scott mentioned before, GDP growth. Generally in late cycle, you get that acceleration in growth and you reach that euphoria moment. We are seeing right now growth that's not recessionary,
right,
but not suggestive of an acceleration. That's kind of the perfect sweet spot with the Federal Reserve. Right, the Federal Reserve just sits back and awaits what their next move is going to be, because I don't even think they know right now.
What do we think of Court, these picks? I mean, look, a lot of people like Facebook. Okay, that's not very.
No, you forget, it was down at $150 earlier this year, so a lot of people got scared.
Yeah, but it had a great year.
It did, and that's so. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Scott.
I was going to say some of these other outliers that are in some cases hated.
Yep.
But certainly underowned. Lyft, Peloton, Snap.
So I personally believe, so like I wouldn't necessarily go Lyft. I'm an Uber buyer, right? Because I do feel like the brand recognition, the diversification of that business, the potential for strong execution and some of the things that they're implementing, they're going to me, win that battle if there is one. It's a longer trail, but I personally would tick them over a Lyft. Sort of like, and not to say you have to own one or the other, you can clearly own both. Sort of like I would not own Snap, I would own Facebook, right? So if I'm going to be in there, I want the power player that's going to dominate. And Facebook has enough. Would I own Twitter?
Because that's been just a dog of dogs.
It would. So I don't own Twitter, and I don't own it because of other reasons, but I do think Jack does a great job, and I think that the president is helping that stock and is going to keep it afloat.
Scott, is this the one that gets caught smoking dope 2 weeks before the combine, and they don't even invite it to the combine because it's that bad? Because look at that horrible performance.
I don't understand.
Snap is up 180%. This one is down.
That's because the quarter was
7%.
And they had bugs in the system. They haven't even fixed it. We don't know when they're going to fix it.
I agree.
The cost of it. So there's so many.
They don't even realize the problems they're making for themselves.
Valuation. This is where you have to be disciplined on valuation. This is why I don't go for these high flyers. Amazon is like the exception to the rule for me, but I don't have support. There's no way to support it.
But I also think that's why, again, with a Facebook, when you think about the execution strategy, the management team, you can disagree with how they think about things, but just the ability to monetize that platform the way that they have, the way that they've grown via acquisition, and the way that they know how to make
and it's
money.
Trading at
it's
20
proven.
times and it's growing at 25%.
There you go.
That's a great risk reward.
So, Scott, there's my answer. Long-winded.
Okay. Let's talk about another technology name. It's Netflix, rallying today. Latest numbers showing subscriptions and revenue soaring in Asia, Europe, Middle East, and Africa. The stock now up 7% in the past 2 months, up 17% this year. So it's another laggard. Disney gets so much love of late. Netflix gets passed over in most of the conversations you have these days.
No, it doesn't. People are just like overly zealous about thinking someone's going to sell it. People are still going to Netflix and chill. There's still, I mean, when they put out that 90% of their growth coming from outside of the United States, what they're trying to do, and I don't mean to speak from the company, I don't know them personally, but what I think they're doing is saying, look, guys, not only are we going to see growth, and some growth here, even if it's on the decline in the U.S., we have a tremendous amount of growth outside of the U.S. And I was at a dinner last night where half the table did not have Netflix until recently, like last week. And generationally, I think just as we saw people...
What do you mean, they didn't subscribe to Netflix?
They did not. So the
week?
Irishman literally brought them on the platform. If you haven't seen that movie, it's phenomenal. But that
sounds
brought
like a
them
fun group
on
you're hanging
the
out with.
platform. Well, so listen. But let me explain. So we had a millennial, a Gen Xer, and two boomers. The two boomers did not have Netflix at the table. It's sort of like when we were talking about Instagram a while ago or Facebook. Grandma gets on Facebook. Mom's on Facebook now. Now mom is starting to get on Instagram. I mean, you're going to see these generational shifts, and that's going to continue to grow.
But you don't own Netflix anymore.
I don't. I made triple the money on it, and I took the profits off the table. But I firmly believe in this company.
Do you have confidence they have pricing power?
I do. I don't know anyone. They've continued to raise the prices. I got them. I think they were $7.
That's $8. Disney's really big push.
Nobody's going to sell. But I think you can have both.
The question
and I think
pricing
Americans think about where the consumer is right now. Think about where they are right now and where sentiment is. I don't know anyone canceling their Netflix subscription to get Disney. They're just adding it on.
Well, Disney's just beginning.
Do they need?
And I think they're going to get them too. And I love that play. But
Courtney,
I think they have both.
They need to have the type of pricing power that they have in the U.S. because for a subscription in the U.S., I believe they're ringing the register on $13 is the number. In Europe, it's about $10. It lessens as you look at Asia Pacific and Latin America. It goes down to about $8.
They're
so they
going to
need the
hook them
pricing
in
power
and
internationally.
raise the prices. They're going to hook them in the way they did here. I firmly believe they'll have the ability
I think
to
what
do
it boils down to...
Hang on. You think Netflix is going to raise prices?
I think they
How can they raise prices if new entrees
in particular?
I mean overseas. I'm very specifically talking about overseas. And even if it's a quarter, even if it's 50 cents, the same way they did in the U.S., it was, I'm going to raise $1 here. I'm going to raise $1 here. And I'm putting my consumer hat on. As you continue to see emerging markets get that growth back, their consumers start to come back.
There's choices, though. Now.
No, I disagree. I disagree with that.
It's not just Disney.
No, but there's plenty of choice, but there's also a secular shift in how we consume this, and that is a very powerful demographic shift.
But you don't get the pricing power with 5 competitors. You're just not.
You are. They don't have the same things, Stephanie.
Disney certainly will have the same things when they pull away from Netflix.
They're taking it away from kids. Here's the thing.
And they're investing in more original content.
Can I make a point?
Sorry, I'm sorry. Go, please.
The reason people are excited about Disney or any old line company that is able to make a pivot to a new direction, whether it be Target and their online sales, is because they successfully engineered and executed a transition. That is why they're excited about Disney. It does not invalidate anything that happened at Netflix or the recurring revenue stream that they've created, which might get under some pricing power unless they are able to come up with great content, which they've been able to do. There's room for multiple players in many industries.
Scott, the thing is that international at Netflix. Now, we talked about it with you when we were all discussing this data we had over at Battlefin, and we said international was flat. That's 2 quarters ago. This quarter, international was going through the roof. They said today when they released their first regional report of where subs are, 90% of the growth is coming from international. That continues, to Court's point. At some point, they raised the price on that, Scott. But the fact that you've got 90% growth offshore, outside the U.S., is huge for these guys. Huge and underappreciated still.
All right. Let's pivot and talk about Boeing for a moment. temporarily suspending production of its grounded 737 MAX jet. The stock rebounding today. It still, though, is in danger of its first negative year since 2014. Our Phil LeBeau joins us now. What do you think? So what do we do? What do we do with this going forward as investors?
Well, I think the big question that a lot of people have is how quickly will the rebound happen? And I think there's an overestimate in terms of how quickly free cash flow comes back. I just do, based on conversations with the people at Boeing, with the people in the FAA, in terms of when these planes are recertified and then they start going through the inventory in terms of, okay, how do we start the deliveries? The delivery cadence is not going to be second quarter, we're good. 400 get delivered. It's just not. It's going to be a lot slower and more extended. And I think what we're seeing here with the stock moving higher is that people are saying, okay, I can live with that. I think someday it's going to get back up to these levels that people are touting for, whether it's 2021 or 2022. By the way, almost every analyst agrees 2020 is a mess. Likely a good chunk of 2021 as well. You can't look at a clean year until you get close to 2022.
What does the investor think here sitting at the table?
It's underperformed the group by 18% in the fourth quarter alone. So a lot of this is already factored into the stock.
Absolutely.
The fact that they didn't furlough or fire anyone, I think, is a good sign that they think this is going to be maybe a month or two kind of a delay.
I would say it's probably longer than a month or two.
Well, okay, that's where we can disagree.
We can disagree on that.
I think that they would have furloughed if it was going to be more than 3 months. I think that they would have taken action on that front. The fact that they're not building inventory is actually a positive in my view.
Yep.
And actually this whole situation helps their free cash flow burn a little bit better. The fact that they're not producing, right?
Right.
They're halting. So there's a couple of things. You could look at it glass half full. You could look at it glass half empty. I can make either case.
Yes.
But as an investor and as a long-term investor,
right.
This is a duopoly. This is a duopoly. There's no doubt about it. And I just think it's very rare that you get a quality company on sale for that long of time period. This has been going on for a year.
Let me ask
the question becomes, let me just say, the question becomes, when do you see the rebound?
Right.
I know we're seeing a little bit today. When do you see the rebound?
I think if you get recertification in the next 2-3 months, 1-2-3 months, I think the stock flies.
Well, I wasn't even going to say, when do you think you see the rebound? I was going to ask, what happens if the stock trades down to 300, like Kramer suggested, or other? I mean,
that's when.
You're at 329.
I know, but okay, but if it goes to 300, then you're going to start talking. Well, what if it goes to 270?
270.
It's a 9%.
If you think it's on sale now, would you be more of a buyer at 3
I certainly
or
would.
under 3?
9% free cash flow yield. I mean, that's really astounding. Now, look, I know there's a lot of uncertainty, and I'm not saying that it shouldn't trade around here at this point in time.
Right.
I kind of like to buy stuff when there's fear out there.
I mean, this is a widely held name. People are wondering this question.
I don't know
today.
if it's widely held, to be honest with you, because you remember when the CEO started talking about a month ago that they were going to get recertification by the end of December, and the stock really did well. And then all of a sudden, these cracks kind of came out, and the stock then tanked. I mean, I don't think it takes much for this stock to rebound. And in terms of free cash flow and that whole story, yeah, it's a 2022 story. I'm not buying it today for that. But I do think this extreme level at this price makes sense for a long-term investor.
So for you, the trigger is recertification?
Yes, no doubt.
What does this announcement, if anything, mean for Muhlenberg's future? Do you have any sense on that? Is this...
Well, the fact that you did not hear from him in that statement says a lot. Yeah, and I was talking with somebody with the company, and they said, the statement says what the statement says.
Wow.
The fact that we don't hear from Dennis Muhlenberg, does that mean that he's going to be fired? I wouldn't say that, but we have not heard. We have not heard from Dennis Muhlenberg in a meaningful way since he was on Capitol Hill. Oh, and they put out the guidance on November 11th, and that's it. Now, read into that what you will.
What would your reaction as the investor at the table be?
I don't think they're going to fire him before they get recertified.
What if they did?
Well, I would agree with that, 100%.
There's no way. They don't need that headache on top of everything else.
It just adds too much uncertainty into it.
Yeah,
to say,
but do you care if he's the CEO over the long term or not as an investor?
No, I think he's botched this up pretty good, for sure. But the chairman actually was very supportive of him. So I'm not sure it's a layup, quite frankly. They just need to get this thing in the air, and then you can deal with the ramifications of leadership.
People to get on the plane once it gets in
they
the
will.
air.
They will get on the plane.
How long?
If it's safe, they will get on the plane.
Good seeing you in person.
Good to be here.
That's Phil LeBeau in the house here. Nice to have you here for a change. Here's what else is coming up on the Halftime Report.
Johnson & Johnson shares up 10% in the past 3 months. And Morgan Stanley thinks it's got room to run. Our experts debate it and the healthcare space in Call of the Day. Plus, John Najarian's got your unusual activity. His latest trades based on moves in the options market are straight ahead. The halftime report with Scott Wapner and the traders is back in 2 minutes. This CNBC program is...
Ho, ho, ho. Who's made a list this year?
I want a new phone, one with amazing cameras, ultra-wide lens, of course, live focus video. Well, it has to be 5G ready to stream all my films. Can it come with something awesome to listen to them through?
Darling, I think he was talking to the kids.
Get everything you want and more. Purchase a Samsung 5G ready device and claim a pair of silver wireless Galaxy Buds at no extra cost. Shop our 5G handsets in store or online at your local O2 store or o2.co.uk. 18 plus. Offer excludes Galaxy Fold 5G. Purchased by the 25th of the 12/19. Claim from Samsung within 30 days. T's and C's apply.
The Better Network is now on TuneIn. This is Brent Musburger. Search the Better Network. That's the BETR network. And then let us get you better prepared to better enjoy the day in sports. The NFL, college football, basketball, hockey, baseball. Sharpen your edge. The Better Network is now on TuneIn. Be better informed. Be better prepared. Search the Better Network. That's BETR.
On the goal line, scores! It takes it home!
Hockey fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
Here's Pietrangelo, he scores!
And you can hear the action live on TuneIn Premium.
The move, hit a shot, he scores!
From regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium.
Upgrade today. Did you know your favorite radio stations are in your pocket? Yes, the TuneIn app lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio anywhere you want. To see all the stations broadcasting in your area, find the local radio section on the home screen. Keep it local with TuneIn.
Back to throw, fires right on the slant. Caught, touchdown.
He leaps and he surges in, touchdown.
This Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, the lights shine bright on the Las Vegas Bowl. Washington Huskies head coach Chris Peterson will coach his final game before retiring as he takes on his former school, the Boise State Broncos.
Down to the 5, he leaps for the end zone, and he is in.
To listen to this and every bowl game, just search college football today.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
Upgrade to TuneIn Premium and get over 45 commercial-free music stations. You'll also get live commercial-free news, plus live play-by-play games from NFL, MLB, NBA, and NHL. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
I'm Rahel Solomon, and here is your CNBC News update at this hour. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell rejecting a request from Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer to call new witnesses, including Mick Mulvaney and John Bolton, in the expected impeachment trial of President Trump.
The House chose this road. It's their duty to investigate. If they fail, they fail. It's not the Senate's job to leap into the breach and search desperately for ways to get the guilty. That would hardly be impartial justice.
Southwest Airlines is announcing that it will cancel thousands more 737 MAX flights through April 13th, 2020. A Southwest spokesperson says that the move was in the works before Boeing said yesterday that it would suspend production of the plane. And Pepsi will launch Pepsi Cafe in April 2020. It'll blend the taste of coffee with Pepsi Cola. It'll come in 2 flavors, original and vanilla, and apparently it'll have nearly double the amount of caffeine than a regular Pepsi soft drink. And you are now up to date. That is the CNBC News update this hour. Scott, I'll send it back to you.
We appreciate it, Rahel. Thank you. J&J rallying 10% in the last 3 months. Morgan Stanley now thinks you should buy it. They upgrade the stock to outperform. Call the day, increasing the price target to 170. Stephanie Link, you own J&J.
I do own J&J.
Like this call?
I do, because I own it.
Still a lot of uncertainty out there, though.
No, well, I mean, I think the valuation is discounting a lot of the uncertainty. It's trading at a 10-year discount to historical average relative to the S&P. It's at a 15% discount to the S&P. I think underneath the surface, the fundamentals are just fine. So you've got this legal issue, and you have to actually decide if you want to.
This little legal issue.
Well, you do. Well, they also generate. They also generate $30 billion in cash a year, and they're going to appeal all of these things.
All right.
So that there is a legal issue, and that's why the stock trades where it does. But underneath the surface, the fundamentals are actually good. I mean, the pharmaceutical business is really on fire, growing upper single digits. Med tech is doing well. Consumer is okay. But I think they're going to do some M&A in med tech, and I think that their growth rate actually will improve. So, getting through this legal stuff is going to be a battle, but I think it's lagged, and so I like the call. I'm
wondering if you're watching the program and you don't own the stock, and you know about the talc legal issues and the overhang with all that. If you say it's worth a risk to buy the stock here based on this call of the day, as we say, or there's just too much risk to put new money to work. I understand if you have money working, you're not going to give up on it. But what about the person who doesn't own it?
Well, I think the valuation is discounting a lot of the bad news, trading at a 10-year historical average low relative to the S&P. That's a big number, right? And if I didn't think underneath the surface the fundamentals weren't as strong as I do, then I wouldn't be buying it. But the fundamentals are doing very, very well. They've got a great pharmaceutical pipeline that I just don't think gets the respect. You're yielding 2.6%, great quality management, awesome balance sheet. And as I said, they generate $30 billion in cash a year. They have plenty of money to pay for a lot of these settlements. And I just don't think you're going to see any settlements anytime soon in a huge number.
Yes, sir.
I generally don't talk about stocks on this show, but years ago, James Grant, you may have read it, wrote a story in his letter that said there will always be J&J. It is a fantastic company. We've owned it for a long time. We own it in our dividend portfolios. It's because of the quality, consistency, transparency of that dividend that they continue to provide. And they are diversified across pharma, med device, consumer products. If you had infinite time and infinite resources, you could not replicate what they have. They will be able to migrate through this, and ultimately it will continue to be a stock that we own in our portfolio.
I agree.
Go ahead.
I agree with everything that Rob said. I agree with what Stephanie said. If you don't own the stock, though, the problem is the visibility, the fact that they are taking a litigation position of appealing.
But it's working. The appeals are working.
Think about it in terms of stock performance. Not are the appeals working in the court of law. In terms of stock performance. If you don't own the stock, the position litigation-wise that they've taken that they're going to appeal, that's going to impede the stock from having the ability to gain momentum. I agree with you. It's a quality company. I love the medical devices component of this. They'll make an acquisition.
How about the
They'll
consumer
be fine.
products?
They're across the board.
I think those are good points. That
I think they are. But California jury yesterday dismissed claims in that particular trial. Not all claims, of course, but in that trial, they dismissed those claims in that yesterday. As far as the talc and the cancer issue and all that. Now, that's a California jury.
There's still opioid overhang, too.
Yes, there is. And Teva and a whole bunch of others, bear that responsibility as well. I think collectively, the opioid, these firms collectively get in and do that big deal.
You don't own this either, though.
No, I don't own this one. But I don't own a lot of these big drug stocks. Pete does. I don't. I'm a trader, not an investor. So I don't own it for that reason.
I think that's actually a really good point. I'm an investor, and I can wait 2 years, and I have a 2.6% dividend yield. And to your point, absolutely does not have momentum. But when they do settle, or if they do settle, or when you get some sort of closure on this, the stock is going to do very, very well. Yeah. I just don't have the timing of that, right? I don't know that. So in the meantime, I think the valuation, it makes a lot of sense. And it's a quality staple-like company at a reasonable price relative to what other
Steph's a collector. There's brokers and traders out there. I think being a collector, when something presents itself, you hang the Picasso on the wall and you let it.
Okay. All right. This is coming up. Some options bulls are finding opportunity in the energy space. John Najarian has that trade next in Unusual Activity. First, though, let's check your S&P sectors today. Or not. Well, there's the S&P, up nearly 4. We're back after this.
Fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
And tucks it home!
And with this team, it's really fun to be a part of a team like that.
And you can hear the action live on TuneIn Premium. From regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium.
Upgrade today.
Upgrade to TuneIn Premium and get over 45 commercial-free music stations. You'll also get live commercial-free news, plus live play-by-play games from NFL, MLB, NBA, and NHL. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
As we wave goodbye to the 2010s, TuneIn is remembering some of the decade's biggest news stories.
In 2011, the Arab Spring sparks anti-government protests across the Middle East and Northern Africa. In 2016, the United Kingdom votes to leave the European Union, forcing the ongoing Brexit crisis. And in 2019, Hong Kong erupts in 6 months of pro-democracy protest against mainland China.
Search news on TuneIn to be there when the next big story breaks.
He leaps and he surges in. Touchdown!
It is college football bowl season on TuneIn. This Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, the bowl season kicks off from the beautiful Bahamas.
Back to throw, fires right on the slant. Caught, touchdown!
The Charlotte 49ers will be playing their first bowl game in school history. They'll be matched up against the Buffalo Bulls. Don't miss the first bowl game of the season. To listen to this and every bowl game, just search college football today.
From ESPN and the award-winning producers of The Sterling Affairs comes the latest season of 30 for 30 podcasts. 4 brand new stories of espionage.
He wanted this team to be the Barcelona of women's basketball.
Resilience.
I started to scream. I tried to get away.
Corruption.
It's the culture of win at all costs.
And rebirth.
How will we ever rebuild it?
30 for 30 podcasts, season 6. Listen and favorite 30 for 30 podcasts on TuneIn.
A lot of people aren't aware that TuneIn lets you listen to the same terrestrial stations that you pick up on your FM AM dial, except you can hear them from anywhere. To see all the stations broadcasting in your area, find the local radio section on the home screen. Keep it local with TuneIn.
Hi, this is Joe from the Halftime Report. I got to tell you, I love the Ask Halftime segment. Keep those questions coming. The traders and I, we love answering those questions at the end of the show. How do you do it?
Go to cnbc.com/halftime or get us on Twitter with the hashtag AskHalftime.
Options bulls are making big bets on a midstream player. John Najarian has that trade at the Telestrator for us in Unusual Activity. Doc.
Scott, DCP. Top of the show, we were talking about 5th-round picks and things like that. I think this fits that category. Why? Because look at it. Right now, it's down a little over 4% year to date, but that's after popping almost 6% today. So that's why I have right here, that's a 5th-round pick. Now, when you look at where it had come from, it was up here at 32 and so forth. I think that is where it could be going back to, Scott. So Kinder Morgan, that's probably your 1st or 2nd round pick. But this one, DCP, I think has a lot of room to the upside. Obviously, somebody else thinks so too, because that's the paper we were following. 5,000 contracts traded pretty quickly at the January 25 strike. It's not a big reach for this thing just to keep on chugging through there. I bought these. I'll probably be in them till about the 2nd week in January. If I like it at that point, maybe I extend out and roll it into perhaps April options at that point, Scott.
All right, Doc, come on back over. Good stuff,
Yes, sir.
because the desk is ready to answer your questions on Emerson Electric, on the semis, Blackstone, and more. We'll do that in 2 minutes.
Fires right on the slant. Caught, touchdown. He leaps and he surges in. Touchdown.
This Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, the lights shine bright on the Las Vegas Bowl. Washington Huskies head coach Chris Peterson will coach his final game before retiring as he takes on his former school, the Boise State Broncos.
Down to the 5, he leaps for the end zone, and he is in.
To listen to this and every bowl game, just search college football today.
The puck drops. 12 players face off to win. The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. TuneIn brings you every minute of the NHL season. Listen live to hockey when it matters most on TuneIn. When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless.
Follow at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
Pascal gobbles up the rebound and slams it down.
Get your favorite NBA team right here on TuneIn.
A step back, deep three is up and in.
Search NBA on TuneIn and hear all the action. The NBA lives on TuneIn.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
Whether you call yourself a Democrat, Republican, Independent, or something else, the road to 2020 is on TuneIn.
What a night! And a complete earthquake. This was
Follow every step of the Democratic primaries while hearing the latest headlines from the White House with live 24-hour news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox News Talk, and more.
We're closing in on the first results in the battle for the White House.
Experience the election through the sources you trust with the nonstop news channels on TuneIn.
Are you curious what others are listening to on TuneIn? Head to the trending section under Browse to see the most popular stations and podcasts among TuneIn listeners right now. Check it out. You might just discover something new for yourself.
All right, welcome back. Let's do some of your questions now. Joe, you get the first one from Jeff in Boca Raton. Where you going today? Right?
Yes.
All right.
Boca, baby.
If you run to Jeff, maybe he can ask you again about another stock in person. But let's talk the medical devices ETF, IHI. It's on a tear. Is it too expensive to buy now? That's what he wants to know.
Valuations for the medical device companies, yes, they are high based on 5 and 10-year metrics, but I think it's warranted. The medical devices tax has been on hiatus. The expectations are it does not return in 2020. In the last 5 years, 7 of the top 10 S&P 500 healthcare performers, they have been medical device companies. It's almost a way to play against a recession, low growth, and the political narrative right now that seems to be holding back performance in a lot of the healthcare names.
All right. People of Boca, look out for you later today. All right, Michael in Charlotte, North Carolina. For John, on semiconductor, what do you do? Hold it or sell it?
I'm still holding it, Scott. I've taken profits because that's one of the things I do, if an option doubles and so forth. We were talking about this one, I think on halftime, maybe even back in middle of September. It was under $20 a share. It's pushing towards 24 right now. I like it. I think they're doing just about everything right. And they gave us positive guidance just in their last report recently. So I like it.
All right. Steph, Mary in Canada wants to know about Emerson Electric. And it's not about buying it. It's sell it or hold it.
Oh, don't sell it. Definitely hold it. They have a catalyst coming up, a restructuring day on Valentine's Day, actually. And they're going to make all kinds of announcements about restructuring their operations. And I think that will be a catalyst into that meeting. Maybe you trim some after, but I like it into that meeting.
Okay. Court, for you, from Lou in the great state of New Jersey.
Oh.
Blackstone. Should I buy it now?
Absolutely, you should buy it now. I think that Blackstone is a name that I personally bought, back when Steve Schwartzman changed the structure of Blackstone. But the reason why you can still buy it now, even up as much as it is where the inflows are going from institutional investors right now into this space. They're at all-time highs. Blackstone is highly diversified, very well run, and very poised and positioned to continue to grow into the future. So it is a name that if you're allocating to financials, I love asset managers, particularly with alternatives, as we know. This is one I love.
Okay, thank you. Rob Sechin for you from Par in Boston. Any thoughts on the biotech M&A surge in recent weeks?
So, yes, I do. One thing that I would say, just backing up, biotech is a space you own, but you have to understand the pipelines in litigation. We owned it earlier in the year on a sell-off. It had a 25% price appreciation. It gave all of it back. It's come to the front burner again, partly because of drug price reform fading, but also because of M&A activity. I can think of Bristol and Celgene. But let's remember, M&A activity is often viewed as something that happens from a position of strength. but it can also be because of stagnation in the pipeline. So I think it's very idiosyncratic, it's very specific to the company, and you just want to be careful. I think you're going to see more and more of this as long as you don't see a lot of this reform jump to the front burner again.
Okay, thank you for that. Very detailed answer. We appreciate that. Rob Sechin, UBS. All right, Roku shares are taking a hit on news. Its CFO is stepping down. Who else but Jim Lebenthal? We're going to ask him about it, what he's doing with shares. Halftime reports back after this.
I'll give you 20p for it. 50p? £5.
Isn't it great when you get more for something than you expected? Scrap or part exchange with Vauxhall and we'll give you a guaranteed £4,000 towards a new Crossland-X or Grandland-X with 4.9% APR representative. Search Vauxhall Trade It. T's and C's and restrictions apply. Trade-in car must be registered in your name for at least 90 days. Available on conditional sale and personal contract purchase only. Subject to status 18+. Vauxhall Finance. Other deposit contributions may be available if you don't have a trade-in vehicle.
Ho, ho, ho. Who's made a list this year? I want a new phone. One with amazing cameras, ultra-wide lens, of course, live focus video. Well, it has to be 5G ready to stream all my films. Can it come with something awesome to listen to them through?
Darling, I think he was talking to the kids.
Get everything you want and more. Purchase a Samsung 5G ready device and claim a pair of silver wireless Galaxy Buds at no extra cost. Shop our 5G handsets in store or online at your local O2 store or o2.co.uk. 18+. Offer excludes Galaxy Fold 5G. Purchased by the 25th of the 12/19. Claim from Samsung within 30 days. T's and C's apply.
Spend Christmas Day listening to the NBA on TuneIn Premium. Featuring 5 big matchups on the holiday schedule. Unwrap the action starting at 12 Eastern when the Celtics take on the Raptors in Toronto, followed by the Bucks and the 76ers at 2:30. The holiday cheers continue with the Rockets and Warriors at 5 and the Clippers and Lakers at 8. And a showdown between the Pelicans and Nuggets at 10:30. 'Tis the season with the NBA on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
Did you know your favorite radio stations are in your pocket? Yes, the TuneIn app lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio anywhere you want. To see all the stations broadcasting in your area, find the local radio section on the home screen. Keep it local with TuneIn.
Cutting for the net, scores! On the goal line, Marchand scores!
Hockey fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
And tucks it home!
And with this team, it's really fun to be a part of a team like that.
And you can hear the action live on TuneIn Premium. From regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium.
Upgrade today. He leaps and he surges in. Touchdown.
It is college football bowl season on TuneIn. This Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, the bowl season kicks off from the beautiful Bahamas.
Back to throw, fires right on the slant. Caught, touchdown.
The Charlotte 49ers will be playing their first bowl game in school history. They'll be matched up against the Buffalo Bulls. Don't miss the first bowl game of the season. To listen to this and every bowl game, just search college football today.
Roku shares are falling after the company announced that its CFO is stepping down. Our Jim Lebenthal, as you know, owns it. We think he still does. He joins us from New York City. Jim, I thought of you right away. How could you not?
So Thank you, Brother Scott.
What's the reaction?
Well, this is a big nothing burger. I mean, if you look at the details, the fundamentals of the CFO leaving, he's been there for 4 years. He's increased the valuation of the company 20-fold. He's commuting from Seattle to San Jose every week, which is a bit of a beast. And more to the point, he's got about $100 million worth of in-the-money options. So he's ringing the bell. He's going to take some time off, and I expect he'll pop up as a CEO somewhere. Outside of that, the company seems fine. They're expanding internationally, which is the next growth opportunity for them. All that to get to this, Scott. This is a technical story, not a fundamental story. This is all about momentum, so I'm sticking with it for now. The next 5% move determines where we go with it. If it goes down, we got to get out. If it goes up, it's clear sailing from here. The next 5% determines what we do.
Wow, if it goes down even close to 5%, you're out. I mean, I ask you this because I hope there are new people tuning in, you know, when may not know what your positions are week to week on Roku, and it's a trading vehicle for you in a high momentum name that's up better than 300% year to date.
Yeah, That's exactly right. And, I think my feet should be held to the fire for deviating from my core competency.
No. Why? I mean, you're allowed to have a little fun. Your
So-
farmer's allowed to play, too. It's all good.
Ride a motorcycle instead of a tractor? Is that what you're saying?
That's right, yeah. Why not?
Listen,
Live a little, Jimmy.
Yeah, as long as I don't break my neck riding the motorcycle, which means if it goes down 5% at 16 times price to sales, you got to know when you're beat. Right now it's working, so let's just let it work. But 5% down from here, and you got to get out.
All right, good stuff. We'll leave it there. Just wanted to hear your voice on this stock today because it's in the news, and we talk about it often. Jim, you be well. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, Judge.
All right. That's Jim Lebenthal, the farmer, joining us. All right, final trade straight ahead on that.
Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? We've got you covered. With TuneIn Premium, you can listen to every NFL game live as it's happening.
LaShawn McCoy has an opening on the right side, plunges into the end zone for the touchdown.
Or catch it later on demand.
Offset backs behind Mahomes. The give is to Williams. Starts right, cuts it back to the left, and flows into the end zone for the touchdown.
You call the plays. Follow the NFL anytime, anywhere, all season long with TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
The puck drops. 12 players face off to win. The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. TuneIn brings you every minute of the NHL season. Listen live to hockey when it matters most on TuneIn.
From ESPN and the award-winning producers of The Sterling Affairs comes the latest season of 30 for 30 podcasts. 4 brand new stories of espionage.
He wanted this team to be the Barcelona of women's basketball.
Resilience.
I started to scream. I tried to get away.
Corruption.
It's the culture of win at all costs.
And rebirth.
How will we ever rebuild it?
30 for 30 podcasts, season 6. Listen now to 30 for 30 podcasts on TuneIn.
When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, hook, into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless.
Follow and TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
With 2020 on the horizon, TuneIn continues looking back at the stories that shaped the 2010s.
In 2012, Black Lives Matter is born after the killing of an unarmed 17-year-old Trayvon Martin. In 2015, the European refugee crisis sees an unprecedented number of asylum seekers entering the EU after fleeing conflict regions like Syria. And in 2017, the Me Too movement inspires a new wave of social justice.
Search news on TuneIn to be listening when the next decade's big headlines break.
Start hearing more of what you want.
Upgrade to TuneIn Premium and get over 45 commercial-free music stations,
Live commercial-free news,
and every live NFL, MLB, NBA, and NHL game.
Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
Online now. More record highs. Read Stephanie Landsman's article on where top strategists are seeing new opportunities. Go to tradingnation.cnbc.com now.
Is the monolithic view of emerging markets obsolete?
Far wing, elevates, triple bucket.
The war of the crowd. The shot clock ticks down. Will the ball go in? The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. And the replays just don't cut
To the
it.
sideline, the man bleeds for 3.
TuneIn Premium brings you every minute of the NBA season streaming live, so you can be there when it matters most. Hear it now, hear it live on TuneIn.
Fake in the lane, turnaround jumper from 8 feet is good on the
Search
right block.
NBA Today to start listening.
Did you know your favorite radio stations are in your pocket? Yes, the TuneIn app lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio anywhere you want. To see all the stations broadcasting in your area, find the local radio section on the home screen. Keep it local with TuneIn.
Introducing a new podcast, ESPN Daily. When you want to go beyond your feed, when you want to get inside the score, when you want to get behind the highlight, there's ESPN Daily. Go deeper into the stories of the moment. Get the exclusive access and insider perspective that only ESPN can give you. ESPN Daily, hosted by me, Mina Kimes. Listen and favorite ESPN Daily on TuneIn.
Back to throw, fires right on the slant. Caught, touchdown. He leaps and he surges in, touchdown.
This Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, the lights shine bright on the Las Vegas Bowl. Washington Huskies head coach Chris Peterson will coach his final game before retiring as he takes on his former school, the Boise State Broncos.
Down to the 5, he leaps for the end zone, and he is in.
To listen to this and every bowl game, just search college football today.
Learn how Cognizant Soft Vision designs experiences and engineers outcomes.
Ugh, another electronic signature. You have to print, walk, sign, scan, recycle, walk, email yourself. Really? More walking, try again, waiting, recycle, walk, email yourself, then get back to your day. Or not. This isn't working. Introducing Samsung Paperless Workflow Solutions. With a Galaxy Tab S6, you can sign digital documents on screen with a finger or your S Pen. Samsung Business Solutions.
When your skin is feeling dry and crinkly, time for Gold Bond Healing Lotion. Penetrates 10 surface layers deep with 7 moisturizers, 3 vitamins. Skin is nourished, healed, healthy looking. Gold Bond Healing. Ultimate lotion, ultimate skin.
The question wasn't really, how does Royal Caribbean become digital? But the better question was, how do we give customers back time in their vacation?
Royal Caribbean set a 5-year roadmap that included us first identifying, setting up a digital organization. One of those things is the need to transform the guest experience. EY helped us look at the view of digital from every different angle. We're going to be able to make that experience even better than it is today.
Welcome back. All right, Courtney.
Yep.
We have to talk.
Oh, boy.
Because you're buying a retail stock, and it is not Walmart, which is up 33% year to date. Target, a double.
Love them both.
Best Buy's up 65%.
I told you guys
Costco,
about Best
which
Buy
is
a
up
long time
46.
ago. Yep. Told you about Best Buy a long time ago, too.
It's Macy's?
It is. It is. I mean, because right now, those other names, which I love and I've talked about on the show, I don't do a ton of retail in my own portfolio, but this name is like so close to the 52-week low.
For a reason.
Well, I mean, you could say that about a lot of things, right? So let's talk about, right?
Especially this one.
I'm playing value today, guys. You ready for this? You know I'm a growth girl. But 9% dividend yield, right? 9% dividend yield.
Okay.
Okay.
Fair point.
There's my downside. All right. Some people might say, oh, they should cut that because of where the stock is and all this and the other. They should reinvest it in bad leases and fixing stores. I'd rather depend on, as an investor, that guaranteed money and then allow Macy's to recreate their playbook as it relates to how they're going to run this business going forward.
What if there is no playbook?
There is a playbook. What are you talking about?
Well, what if the playbook has Walmart, Target, Best Buy, and Costco in it, and you're like, I can't even... That's like Lamar Jackson, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes.
So give me another football guy. Give me somebody else.
What am I going to do?
But at the end of the day, right, it is a staple name that has the ability, the brand recognition, the real estate to move forward. I honestly believe that if Macy's can do better with their app, if they can make some other changes, there's nothing but, and I hate to say this, but there's nothing but upside from this point, and your downside is 9%. I'm not saying your downside is 0. 9% right now.
Okay. We like contrarian plays.
And I don't do them often, so just take a look.
That's fair. Thank you.
It's up a couple percent since I bought it. I bought it about 15.60, so you guys can hold me to it.
There you go. So the stock's moving up. Moving on up.
This morning.
All right.
Plain.
Stephanie Link here. We don't have that much time. Give me 20 seconds on why you're adding to Freeport.
It's a China trade stock. The company is also focusing on cost cuttings for the first time since I've even known the company. I think the supply demand in copper gets better in 2020 as global growth actually accelerates.
Adding to NVIDIA too.
I am adding to NVIDIA. I like it. Data center and gaming. I think it's going to be a great 2020 for NVIDIA.
Okay, and Schwab as well, but that's at the bottom there.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do some final trades. Joe Terranova, you start us off, please.
I think it's important when you're looking at your portfolio to find something that is completely out of consensus. That's why last week I bought TIP. Jeffrey Gundlach mentioned inflation in his interview with you. No one is thinking about inflation moving forward. I hope I'm wrong in putting this in the portfolio, but it's a good thing to do, out of consensus play.
All right. Stephanie Link.
Yeah, I'm just going to reiterate NVIDIA because I do think 2020 sets up very nicely. It's still down 20% from its high. data center, gaming, all set up well. They should see a recovery next year. They have $7.8 billion in cash they will deploy.
Courtney Gibson, Loop Capital.
I'm sticking with Boeing. I'm going with you guys.
Awesome.
I would put it in the portfolio, and someone just told me, don't bet against Dennis.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
I'm with Joe on the laggards. We added emerging markets. I think everybody should do IEMG.
Planes, PAGP, another infrastructure play for energy.
All right, great stuff. Thank you. Thanks for watching. The exchange starts right now.
That's right, and thank you, Scott, and welcome everybody to the exchange. I am Brian Sullivan. Boeing shares, they have dropped 12% since the grounding of the 737 MAX, and we still have more drama to play out. Could recertification get pushed out even more? And some investors are beginning to ask, why is CEO Dennis Muhlenberg still in charge? We will explore. Plus, will the China trade truce bring back CEO confidence and lead to more spending? The head of the conference board says the deal doesn't mean much to them, but he'll tell you what does. And from electric cars to cigarettes to taxes on medical devices, there is a lot at stake for Wall Street and you in that latest spending bill. We're going to dig into the fine print, all that, of course, and more over the next 60 or so minutes. But let us begin with more new records for your money. Seema Modi, we got a lot of green on that screen behind you.
We do, Brian. Good afternoon. A better than expected read on manufacturing. And once again, we're in record high territory. The S&P poised to extend its winning streak to 5 days of gains. The Dow currently up 82 points. Now, part of the reason we're higher is because oil is trading above $60 a barrel. And therefore, a number of energy producers are leading the S&P at this moment. Devon Energy, Marathon, Cimarex all up about 1 to 3%. Take a look at one stock that we're keeping a very close eye on. That is FedEx, not participating in today's gains. Amazon blocking its third-party sellers from using its ground delivery network. This as we count down to earnings tonight. And as you can see of a year-to-date chart in comparison to United Parcel, it is significantly underperformed its peers and the market this year. Brian, back to you.
All right, Seema, thank you very much. All right, now let's get to your top story, and that is what else? Boeing. Shares are holding steady today, but this after falling more than 4% on Monday on the news of that MAX's production halt. And that production halt could get expensive quickly. JP Morgan estimates that Boeing will still burn about $1 billion a month on the 737 MAX. Phil LeBeau has been following the story from the very beginning. He's broken a lot of news on this, and he joins us now right here at CNBC HQ. How can they still be spending so much when the production is halted?
Well, it's not like they just turn it off completely. I mean, they still have, I don't know, 25, 30 planes in process. They still need to finish building those. They have suppliers. They have contract they just can't cut off immediately. But the focus right now is on the planes that are built in inventory. Basically, you're looking at about 400 of these planes. They are going to be eventually cleared out, but they don't want to have any more parked on the tarmac there in Puget Sound area or other areas in the Pacific Northwest. The inventory deliveries, however, that's going to ramp up slowly. So if you're looking at the first quarter, here's the estimate, and this is basically back of the envelope math from talking with a number of analysts, talking with the folks at Boeing, talking to people at FAA in terms of when we might see a certification here. Starting off with the big question, when do we see a recertification? Maybe early to mid-February, and that's just a guess at this point. Deliveries, if that happens, could resume mid to late February, and then you might see production resuming mid to late March. But again, it all depends on when the FAA actually certifies this plane. And if it gets pushed out even further, then you're having changes
So there may be as many as 400 or more MAXs
yes, there are.
Sitting on runways in Seattle and just stored somewhere.
Not really stored. I mean, they call them stored. Yeah, they're outside. I mean, and it's not like they sit there and there's not maintenance done on these planes. They do maintenance on these planes. Look, Boeing realizes that they're going to eventually turn these over to customers. They don't want to, say, well, that plane's been sitting out there for 3 months. No, they do maintenance on them on a regular basis.
Okay, and so there's a few that are currently being built. I mean, has there been any customers at all who have simply said, even when they're recertified, we don't want the plane, or contractually, are they obliged to take the plane?
No, there have been customers who have either canceled or converted. Now, not widespread cancellations. We're not talking like 50 or 100. Mm-hmm. So when you look at the order book, has it come down a little bit? Yeah, but basically you're talking about maybe an airline or a leasing company who have said, look, we were on the book for 6 737 MAXs. You know what? We're going to convert those over into 2 787 Dreamliners.
But they're still converting Boeing to Boeing. They're not converting maybe Boeing to Airbus.
Correct.
So Boeing will still get the business. It just might be for a different physical airplane.
Correct.
Okay. Phil, stick around.
Okay.
So, with all the drama of the grounding, the Capitol Hill testimonies, and miscalculations of return to service dates, as well as a stock that has really been stuck in neutral, made no money for investors for 2 years and a pretty incredible market run, why is CEO Dennis Muhlenberg still at the helm? We want to bring in David Gillis, who has been following the story for the New York Times. Phil is still here. David, welcome. You're doing some great reporting as well. Here's the question. Are the people that you're talking to as well, or maybe in your own opinion, David, should the CEO be replaced?
Well, it's not up to me or my opinion. What I will point out is that in October, the Boeing board split the roles. They made Dave Calhoun the chairman of the company, took the chairmanship away from Dennis. And the intent there was to let Dennis focus full-time on bringing the MAX back to service. Now here we are. That same month, he was at the New York Economic Club. We saw him that day. He came out and said he had full confidence that we would see return to service certification this quarter, as in 2019. Now here we are. Stephen Dixon on the Hill, the FAA administrator, last week says, no, these planes are not going to fly until 2020. And now we have the shutdown. So by that simple objective measure, he wasn't able to set out what he said would happen this calendar year. And inevitably, a lot of questions are being raised indeed about his performance.
I'd agree. I mean, and they're fair questions to be asked. I think if there was one moment that really they went the wrong way in this whole quarter, it has to be November 11th, when they put out the guidance, the formal guidance, where they said, we expect a certification by the end of this year and possible commercial service to begin for some airlines, potentially by the end of January. When that came out, I know David probably has heard the same thing from people at the FAA. I mean, their heads were going to explode. It was like, what?
Well, he front-ran them.
Yeah. And they were sitting there saying, no. You don't tell us when this is going to happen by, and everybody knew this at the time. There were tons of steps that still need to be completed in the process.
There's only two things, David, that could have happened here, okay? And by the way, Dennis Muhlenberg, this is a guy who made $16 million in 2018, according to Capital IQ. $16 million. One of two things either happened. Number one, the FAA fed him and his team bad information, which then he went out of, and that probably would be more on the FAA. Or he front-run the FAA. He didn't know the certification and was either fishing or hoping for a date. It can't be anything else than those two things.
Dennis is a guy that grew up at this company. From everything we hear about him, he believes in this company. He's optimistic by nature, and he's never faced a crisis like this. You can imagine, you use the keyword hope. He wants these planes to fly again. Everyone in that company does. And of course, his job is very much on the line here. So does he hope and want these things? And is he maybe going to lean in the direction of optimism in terms of that timeline? I think that's exactly what we're seeing. But imagine a different scenario. Imagine if for the last 9 months, instead of saying, we believe they're going to fly a few months from now, we believe they're going to fly Phil, we were having these conversations over the summer.
Yeah.
They were saying that it was a September target, then an October target, and now here we are and we're into next year. Imagine if the answer was, the planes will fly when the FAA says they're going to fly.
That's all I had to say.
Period.
Right.
Instead, he got trapped in this game of stringing along not only the FAA, but airlines. You know, Phil and I get these emails, it feels like one a week now, from American Airlines, United Airlines, and Southwest Airlines saying we're pushing back the MAX return to service again by another 30 days, And now we're right up against the summer travel season.
And the frustration with airline
executives. If these planes don't have these planes for the summer travel season, there's going to be even more pain.
Yeah, and the frustration with the airline executives, I mean, they are furious. I mean,
Gary Kelly of Southwest is a pretty mild-mannered guy.
And today they came up and they said, we're now pushing back to April. At least 50,000 flights have been wiped out when you go from March of last year all the way through April of this year. And that's just Southwest. If you were the CEO and we came to you and we said, hey, by the way, take out 50,000 flights next year. Now go ahead and try to meet your expectations. I mean, you'd sit there and say, wait a second, why are they going away?
Yeah. It's a good lot of questions. And by the way, nobody's talked to the passengers yet. Phil, David, good stuff. Thank you very much. Well, Boeing is obviously a huge part of the markets. As a high-priced stock, it controls a big chunk of the price-weighted Dow Jones Industrial Average. But even with Boeing's woes, markets continue to make new highs. But this run is starting to make some people a little bit nervous. According to Bespoke Investment Group, nearly half of all stocks are now technically in overbought condition. The question is this: are the bulls finally running out of room to run? Let's bring in Jeff Crumpleman. He is Chief Investment Strategist for Mariner Wealth Advisors. Here on set, Ali McCartney, Managing Director of Private Wealth Management at UBS. Ali, 50% of stocks in the S&P technically over, but now it's just the technicals. But when I hear overbought, I think maybe the markets don't have much more room to go up. What do you think?
I think that it's very easy to be negative about this bull market simply because of the length of time we've been here. I think that, we've seen a lot of great data. Markets continue to move higher. There's no reason they shouldn't. What we're going to be looking to in the new year to see if that can continue is really three things. One is business investment picking up. If nothing else, has the decrease in uncertainty out there around trade made it such that replacement investment is happening? Two is the sentiment that's out there in the corporate environment, keeping up with the data that we've seen and the strength of the consumer. We'd love to see some of that. And three, what's really important for the longevity of this, I think, is the uncertainty around trade, which is largely what actually happens in this phase one deal, specifically China's commitment to intellectual property and opening up the markets.
Well, that's our B block, by the way. So don't steal the B, don't front run the show, Ali McCarty. All right, Jeff, I mean, you hear from clients, I'm sure, and they've probably made a lot of money in the last 5 to 10 years. Are you getting the calls that are just simply saying, Jeff, I don't know how much more room there is to go. I've made a bundle. Let's go to cash. Let's go to bonds. Let's go to gold, whatever it is.
We're not getting those calls right now. We've got them intermittently throughout this entire bull run. And it's amazing. You can never get complacent, in this market and really relax. This time last year, folks were championing, headlines like worst December since 1931 and predicting doom and gloom. And we just really felt at 14 times earnings with fundamentals that were likely to be better than feared, that would be a great year. But to put that in context, even though we're up 28, 29%, really we just made up for the horrible December that we had last year. And if you go back to January 1 of 2018, we're only up 8% compounded annually over the last 2 years. So we think this can continue to run, particularly when the fundamentals, you've seen all the data today, it ain't robust, but it's very solid. And technically, while we're overbought, we still see very nice long-term uptrends with good leadership. And generally, when you have that backdrop and you're temporarily overbought, over the next 12 months, it's pretty solid.
We'll be higher next year, Ali, you think? And what's going to get us there?
So, look, we're going to have, we're calling for about a 3,200. So, we're not going that much higher than we are now.
Mid-single digits, maybe.
Well, but that's okay, right? I mean,
throwing a little more for the dividend.
Yeah. Well, so
might get to 7.
If you look at the dividend historically, the U.S. dividend has made up about 50% of all of the expansion you've seen in U.S. stocks. The thing I want to focus on is I've had 4 conversations today with clients and family in Spain, and all of them are buying U.S. markets. So we're not even talking about U.S. investors there. We have a global system that is literally punching money into the equity market. Look at the, the experience that we've had in bond markets. The spread between U.S. dividends and bonds is at a crazy level. Yeah. So I think we're not even talking about U.S. investors. We're not just talking about high net worth investors. Come January, all of these asset allocators, all of the institutional investors are going to have to put money to work. And I think it's going to be in the U.S. market and still largely defensive.
Jeff, quickly, best idea for 2020 at Mariner Wealth Advisors is what?
We like a stock by the name of 26. And if you ask me what stock would be tethered to cloud and 5G and just this new technology world of rapid processing, it would be 26. They make silicon carbide engineered materials to allow for maximum efficiency in production of semiconductor, the wafers, and also laser technology that allows for very rapid data transmission and things like facial recognition and just very tethered to state-of-the-art technology.
I like it. Jeff Crumpleman, a new name, a name I don't think I've ever talked about as well. It probably came up on Fast Money or Halftime. But Jeff Crumpleman, thank you very much. Happy holidays. Happy New Year, Ali McCartney. We'll see you in 2020, I guess.
Yes,
have a great one. Thank you very much. All right, there is still so much left to do. Here's what else is ahead on the exchange.
Coming up, a ceasefire with China has Wall Street cheering. But will it bring back CEO confidence and lead to more CapEx spending? We'll explore. Plus, The new spending bill has a lot of provisions that could impact Wall Street. We'll break them down. And Jeffries says it's time to bet on basketball, Billy Joel, and the world's most famous arena. This is The Exchange on CNBC.
How's work? If you're not loving your job and you're getting those Sunday blues, now's the time to make a change. With a LinkedIn app, it's now easier to find and land the job meant for you. There are millions of jobs on offer, and the LinkedIn app helps you hear about them first. Research shows applying within the first 10 minutes increases your chances of hearing back by up to 4 times. Stay in the know and grow your career. Download the free LinkedIn app today.
For the independent bookseller who found you that first edition. For the baker who brings the smell of freshly baked bread to your door.
And for the barista who never needs to ask your name.
We've all got a part to play.
Every little tap keeps your high street alive.
And helps your communities thrive.
So if you love where you live, shop small.
Shopping on your local high street can make a big difference. Shop small. Only by American Express.
Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? We've got you covered. With TuneIn Premium, you can listen to every NFL game live as it's happening.
LaShawn McCoy has an opening on the right side, plunges into the end zone for the touchdown.
Or catch it later on demand.
Offset backs behind Mahomes. The give is to Williams. Starts right, cuts it back to the left, and flows into the end zone for the touchdown.
You call the plays. Follow the NFL anytime, anywhere, all season long with TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
All right, welcome back to The Exchange. It is 1:17 Eastern. Here are some of the stock movers that you need to be paying attention to at this hour. Shares of Eli Lilly, they are moving higher. This after the company provided an upbeat profit and revenue guidance for next year. Lilly's had a decent year, up about 9%, underperforming, however, the broader market. Meantime, speaking of 9%, shares of Groupon are down nearly 9% on a downgrade to a sell by Goldman Sachs. Goldman pointing to weakness in the North American business, with customers declining for a 7th straight quarter. Tough day for Groupon investors. And shares of Guess are up more than, well, you don't have to guess, up more than 6% on an upgrade to outperform at Cowen. Cowen likes Guess's new emphasis on profit margins and free cash flow. Well, perhaps the biggest question around the China trade deal is one that is still left unanswered. Will this Phase 1 agreement give America's CEOs the confidence to boost their corporate spending? Spending means more industrial production and more jobs. Joining us is Steve Odland. He is president and CEO of the Conference Board, also a CNBC contributor and a former CEO in the private sector and public sector as well, with Staples and others. Steve, it's a simple question. Is that deal going to make guys like you go out and build more factories and hire more workers?
Well, look, it's Phase 1. We've got a verbal on this thing that we don't have it in writing yet. It does good stuff, no doubt. It starts to establish some behaviors, hopefully from China on IP. It lowers some barriers. But the biggest thing it does is it doesn't put into effect the next step, which is the tariffs that were going to come. So that's probably the biggest effect. But if you're thinking about future, CEO confidence, which the Conference Board's measures and which has been slightly declining here on all the trade machinations, it should get a little bit better. But the bigger effect, I think, is what the Fed has done, which they've said we're here in a stable period for a long period of time. Remember, if you're a CEO and you're trying to plan capital spending, what you're doing is you're looking at stability, you're looking at certainty, but you're looking at your cost of capital, which is important from the perspective of interest rates. So yes, this is good. We need Phase 2, which is the bigger thing, and so forth. It's good that it hasn't thrown a monkey wrench into it, but interest rates are the bigger deal, Brian.
Okay, so interest rates are pretty favorable. Steve, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe our Federal Reserve has cut rates about 3 times since they made the mistake of raising it last year. Will that, though, be the push? I mean, cheap debt, is that going to be enough then to build that new factory?
Well, I think, yes, partially, but your cost of capital, you need certainty as a CEO. When you've got volatility going on in the markets, volatility going on in trade, it works psychologically. And we've seen in the past where CEO confidence can go down and it can actually create recessions or at least declines. That's not the case. So I think this helps a lot, Brian, to bring some stability to the market. The Fed has helped a lot. In a tight labor market, this is really important because if you're going to invest in future jobs, if you're going to invest in capital, if you're going to invest in marketing spending, consumer spending, all of that is dependent on your cost of capital and the certainty. So I think if you look at this deal, China has said that they're going to invest and buy our agricultural products. That's important. This time of year is important because the farmers are sitting there planning out how much seed do I need to buy? What do I need to put in the ground here in the spring? That's coming on us. That's a great thing. It's great timing for that. Second thing is we're just finishing up this retail season. It should be, a huge, huge season. Retailers will go right back into planning here in the first quarter for the spring season and then for next year. This ought to help with that too. So I think it's all good from a timing standpoint, but all of this leads to greater certainty. And I think our CEO confidence indices from the conference board should stabilize here with these effects.
All right, well, let's hope so. And by the way, Steve, I don't know where you are, but based on that shot, you're sitting somewhere in the middle of New York Harbor. You're on a barge or something because there's water all around you. Steve, we got...
Don't tell anyone that I'm sitting in the harbor on a sunny day in New York.
It's amazing. It's beautiful. Steve Odland, former CEO of Office Depot. Thank you very much, Steve. Appreciate it. All right,
thanks, Brian.
On deck, a stunning amount of people are getting rejected lately for car loans. Why? It's a very different story than mortgages and credit cards. We're going to take a look into that. Plus, Amazon stepping up its shipping game and stepping on FedEx in the process. But are all these localized individual shippers really a good thing for Amazon? We'll dive in on that as well. The Dow is up, more new records, and the exchange is back right after this.
My reputation was trashed online. I felt completely helpless.
Today, your information is more exposed than ever. When you shop, sign in, or browse, you could be vulnerable to cybercriminals. More online threats demand more protection. That's why new Norton 360 provides multiple layers of protection, combining device security, secure VPN, password manager, and cloud backup all in one solution. Get new Norton 360, starting at $24.99 for the first year.
The Honda Jazz, the car that feels fabulously small on the outside, yet deceptively big on the inside, with its incredible storage solutions and magic folding seats. Not to mention the suite of advanced safety features. And now with the small but big Jazz event, it's available with 0% APR representative and 5 years complimentary servicing until January 31st. Visit your local dealer to find out more. Honda dealers are credit brokers, not lenders. Finance provided by Honda Finance Europe, authorized and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. Terms and conditions apply.
Ho, ho, ho. Who's made a list this year?
I want a new phone, one with amazing cameras, ultra-wide lens, of course, live focus video. Well, it has to be 5G ready to stream all my films. Can it come with something awesome to listen to them through?
Darling, I think he was talking to the kids.
Get everything you want and more. Purchase a Samsung 5G ready device and claim a pair of silver wireless Galaxy Buds at no extra cost. Shop our 5G handsets in store or online at your local O2 store or o2.co.uk. 18 plus. Offer excludes Galaxy Fold 5G. Purchased by the 25th of the 12/19. Claim from Samsung within 30 days. T's and C's apply.
At Asda this Christmas, we're full of fun and games with a whopping 20% off toys in-store and online. Never mind the big day itself, that's the entertainment sorted for the whole of Christmas. Asda, let's make Christmas extra special. Selected stores online subject to availability. Excludes baby toys. Offer ends 19th of December. Minimum spend, carry bag and delivery charges may apply.
We can't make traffic move faster during rush hour. But we can help you catch up on the news with TuneIn. With live around-the-clock news from MSNBC.
In the UK, they're significantly worse. When the president gets up to the podium...
CNBC and Fox News Talk.
The Fox News poll sizing up the race for 2020 found that each of the 5 top Democrats...
You can use your stop and go for good by staying in touch with the world. Search news to hear what's happening now.
A lot of people aren't aware that TuneIn lets you listen to the same terrestrial stations that you pick up on your FM AM dial, except you can hear them from anywhere. To see all the stations broadcasting in your area, find the local radio section on the home screen. Keep it local with TuneIn.
I'm Bill Griffith. Welcome back to the Exchangers. What's happening at this hour? Video has emerged today of police in New Delhi beating up students who were protesting against a new controversial law on citizenship in that country.
It happened on Sunday. The students were participating in a march that descended into chaos when demonstrators set 3 buses on fire. The police response it has since then drawn widespread condemnation. And Ford is adding 3,000 new jobs at 2 factories in the Detroit area. They're investing $1.5 billion to build new pickup trucks, SUVs, and electronic and autonomous vehicles there. Hiring begins next year. And finally, hedge fund magnate David Tepper is bringing a Major League Soccer team to Charlotte. He was awarded an MLS expansion team today. It begins playing in 2021. Tepper already owns the NFL's Carolina Panthers. The soccer team will play its games where the Panthers play. Listen to this.
Since I came to Charlotte, I found a new place to live. It's the greatest, it's gonna be the greatest city for MLS to be in.
Sully, I would respectfully suggest that Mr. Tepper keep his day job.
Well, his day job did net him a few $1 billion in the ability to buy a team. But
yes, he has 2 day jobs now. That's right. He manages money still and also now owns 2 teams. But I'd leave the singing at home for the shower.
Yeah, listen, he was a guest on Squawk Box or whatever all the time. I never heard him sing once. Where's he been hiding that talent?
Where it belonged.
Loosely defined.
Indeed.
Bill,
see you soon.
Yes, on Rapid Fire, Bill. Get over here soon. All right. Appreciate that. Meantime, here's what else is coming up on the exchange.
Ahead, Netflix is seeing lots of growth, just not where you expected. Betting on Billy Joel and basketball. It was the year of impatience for consumers. And why the spending bill matters more to Wall Street than ever before. It's all coming up on the exchange.
I used to do a la carte vision care. You know.
Ho, ho, ho. Who's made a list this year?
I want a new phone, one with amazing cameras, ultra-wide lens, of course, live focus video. Well, it has to be 5G ready to stream all my films. Can it come with something awesome to listen to them through?
Darling, I think he was talking to the kids.
Get everything you want and more. Purchase a Samsung 5G ready device and claim a pair of silver wireless Galaxy Buds at no extra cost. Shop our 5G handsets in store or online at your local O2 store or o2.co.uk. 18 plus. Offer excludes Galaxy Fold 5G. Purchased by the 25th of the 12/19. Claim from Samsung within 30 days. T's and C's apply.
Are you curious what others are listening to on TuneIn? Head to the trending section under Browse to see the most popular stations and podcasts among TuneIn listeners right now. Check it out. You might just discover something new for yourself.
Upgrade to TuneIn Premium and get over 45 commercial-free music stations. You'll also get live commercial-free news, plus live play-by-play games from NFL, MLB, NBA, and NHL. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
Hey, TuneIn listeners, Steve Kornacki here from NBC News. I want to tell you about a podcast I'm hosting called Article 2, Inside Impeachment. It's dedicated to bringing you the latest developments on the impeachment inquiry into President Trump. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I talk to NBC News reporters who are closest to the story to break down what's new, what matters, and what it means for the 2020 election. Search and favorite Article 2, Inside Impeachment on TuneIn.
He leaps and he surges in. Touchdown!
It is college football bowl season on TuneIn. This Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, the bowl season kicks off from the beautiful Bahamas.
Back to throw, fires right on the slant. Caught, touchdown!
The Charlotte 49ers will be playing their first bowl game in school history. They'll be matched up against the Buffalo Bulls. Don't miss the first bowl game of the season. To listen to this and every bowl game, just search college football today.
Pascal gobbles up the rebound and slams it down.
Get your favorite NBA team right here on TuneIn.
A step back, deep three is up and in.
Search NBA on TuneIn and hear all the action. The NBA lives on TuneIn.
Want to hear about the latest and greatest things to listen to on TuneIn? For reminders of the biggest live sports games, debates, and breaking news stories, follow @TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay connected with the audio that matters to you.
All right, as the snazzy graphic says, it is time now for Rapid Fire. These are the hot stories that you need to be talking about, or at least thinking about and listening to us talk about. Here now with your take are Bill Griffith, Kate Rogers, and Robert Frank. All right, ready, guys? Here we go. First up, number one, Jefferies initiating coverage of Madison Square Garden, MSG, with a buy rating and a price target of $370. That's 30% upside. They say the prospective separation of sports and entertainment unlocks asset value and growth potential as more people opt for experiential leisure. They get to experience the Knicks losing every night, Bill. They also see sports betting as the possibility.
You know, this is what I was going to mention, and I know they're splitting the two, but how do you measure success or determine success of a company like this? Is it only their bottom line that you look at, or do you also have to look at the success of their sports teams, which we know the Knicks and the Rangers have not exactly been setting the leagues on fire for the last several years. So does that make it a successful team still? Now, the stock has done well, you know, for the last 4 or 5 years that it's been publicly traded, but the teams have not.
Yeah, when the Knicks were hot, back in the 90s, I'm dating myself, you couldn't get tickets. Somebody gave you a ticket, it was like this manna from heaven. I'm sure you could buy. Oh, you were?
I was a season ticket holder.
Are you now?
No.
Why not?
What? Isn't that self-evident?
Well, I wanted you to say it.
Now, our executive producer of this show is a huge Knicks fan. Still,
and Rockets.
And I applaud that because that's a true fan. If you could be a fan when the team is down.
Well, he's also filled with self-loathing, so he just has to go.
The tickets are still pricey. That's my only hot take as well, even for bad seats.
The spinoff they need to do is spinning off the Dolans. The Dolan family will own and control through voting both companies. So what's going to change? What's really going to change? You're going to split these companies up. They're still going to be run by the same family that
I feel like it's like the Warriors. People forget the Warriors were the worst basketball team for about 30 years. Ownership changes. Steph Curry comes in because you got smarter people. Suddenly they start winning, and now it's like the hottest. Not this year.
Not this year. Well,
injuries.
there you are.
Because Steph Curry's out. All right. Next up. Netflix is asking Wall Street to look internationally. The company releasing detailed overseas subscriber info for the first time, showing its Asia-Pacific business has grown the fastest in 3 years. Robert Frank, can or does international and Asia-Pacific need to save, if you will, Netflix?
That's the narrative. You know, overseas is supposed to be 90% of their subscriber growth. They're trying to make the U.S. seem less important because they did have a quarter this year where the U.S. actually declined. So they're trying to take your eye away from that. But here's the problem with overseas. It's a lot less profitable. So the average subscription here in the U.S. is over $12. The average one in Latin America, which is one of their strongest regions, is $8. So you're talking about a 30%, a third less that you're making from.
But I wonder if the content, if the content is cheaper. I wonder.
Well, some of that.
I mean, you can watch, of course, the U.S. content. You want to watch Friends or whatever it is. That's a bad example. But
that assumes that all the content that's in Latin America is
Amigos.
Three Amigos.
Yes, I like that. That's good. It's a very international program right now.
Smart to release this
now. It's like
now.
Worldwide Exchange.
Yes. What were you going to say?
My second favorite show. Worldwide Exchange. First favorite is The Exchange, especially when you're hosting.
You get them confused sometimes, except for when it comes to sleep.
No, I mean, great time to release this, obviously. We talk about the streaming wars every day, and the narrative around Netflix, I feel like it changes every time we're sitting here. We were just talking about how many awards they racked up, some of these pricey overseas
but now there's Hulu, our forthcoming Peacock. There's Apple Plus. There's Disney
and this is one of the more expensive
HBO
options
Max.
for consumers.
HBO
so
Max.
what happens moving forward?
Showtime.
Yeah,
I still say,
NBA.
I said this last time when we talked about this. Reed Hastings is one smart dude, and I'm
don't bet against.
I'm not worried about Netflix.
Now I have subscriptions to everything.
Yeah,
so
well, that's
one of those
it's starting to look a lot like television.
It is.
With channels that just happen to look like apps. It's amazing. All right, then this. A new survey from the New York Fed found that more and more borrowers are stalling out when it comes to getting car financing. The average rejection rate for auto loans jumped a whopping 80% year over year in October, from 4.5% to 8.1%. I do wonder, Kate Rogers, if it's not that they're getting tighter. I wonder if it's just the fact that car prices are out of control.
Well, and there was an anecdote in here, the Wall Street Journal highlighting one 40-year-old took out a $45,000 loan on a $27,000 Jeep Cherokee.
Because you're able now to roll the unpaid balance of your previous car
over into the
if
new
it's
loan.
not worth what they want to give you. That didn't end well for housing. But to be fair, a car is not a house.
No, it's not.
It's not going to be systemic to the economy, Bill.
I mean, I can hear Barney Frank now. I mean, I remember when the Dodd-Frank was coming out and banks were crying foul that they were making things too difficult for people to get loans and everything. And Barney's response was, let me get this straight. They're complaining because they aren't able to give loans to people that they don't think will be able to pay that loan back. So if a bank is turning down somebody for a loan, I would assume it's because they assume they aren't going to get their money back. And that's the way it should work anyway, right?
A third of the cars that are being traded in for new cars are underwater. And I don't mean 007's Lotus and The Spy Who Loved Me. I mean, they have less equity than the car is worth. And that's a third. That's a big number.
That's why you need these rollover loans.
Yeah.
That's it. All right. This is a... Here you go. You ready for this one, Kate? Rest easy, shopper. It's not us. It's not you, folks. Clothing sizes are broken. There are no standard sizes, and according to Wall Street Journal, the discrepancies are getting worse, especially, but not only, in women's clothing. Size issues are one of the top return orders, the reason things get returned, adding a layer of cost and annoyance to retailers. Some companies apparently are working on technology to help the stores get it right. None offer a standard solution. The point is this. A 6 or a 4 or an 8 across vendors is completely different. How frustrating is this?
Well, you can get free returns on just about anything these days, and that's eating into all of the margins for these retailers.
Here, between us, because this happens at my house, but don't tell anybody.
Yes.
Okay? You order 3 versions
of the same thing and see which one fits.
Yeah, and then you send the other 2 back.
Yeah, I do it all the time. It's not a secret. I mean, and some retailers have vanity sizing where it's a smaller size, but it's actually larger. Those are my favorite retailers. No, but I mean, across the board, I'm different sizes.
They fake the size to make you feel better.
Some things run larger, so you're a smaller size. So this happens all the time. None of these are consistent. I think it's a little easier to measure men. Apparently,
well, we have 2 measurements. I've never understood women's clothing, how you have one number. I mean, we'll have pants that are 36, 34, right? So you know the waist and you know the length.
But stretch also changes the game.
However, now don't tell our wardrobe department this, but I happened to have purchased a couple of pairs of dress slacks a couple months ago online. First time I had ever done that. I'm a 33-30, okay?
Skinny.
Have been for a long time. I'm off the rack.
Bill
Jack
bragging
here,
again.
okay?
There he goes.
Skinny is.
One of the pairs, there is no way that was a 33 waist. I couldn't.
Got one leg in, yeah.
But, you know, so
I was a 36. I gained weight, and I'm suddenly not a 36 anymore. It's really annoying.
Isn't that annoying?
I blame the clothing.
You need a vanity size.
I was going to say
vanity. So you guys, did you know about vanity sizing?
I will say, though, you're onto something with the old stretch stuff.
Because you can wear a smaller size in something that has more stretch.
That's becoming very much in vogue now. In men's slacks, it's not the Sansabelt style, but it is a stretchy kind of a waistband now.
I'm just waiting for culottes and clam diggers to make a comeback. I think that's the next trend.
They left?
Finally, Popeyes firing a Sunday salvo in the chicken wars. The chain taking out classified ads on Sunday in the New York Times, the New York Post, the Boston Globe, and Miami Herald, seeking applicants who have experience making chicken sandwiches and who can work on Sundays. Of course, Chick-fil-A is not closed on Sunday for religious reasons. Popeyes launched its sandwich in August, has been warring with Chick-fil-A ever since. I don't know, Robert, if this is the kind of battle you want. Hey, can you work on Sundays? It seems like it could backfire.
Yeah, a little bit. Look, the first round in August got them all this publicity. The sandwich became famous. They had a huge number of clients. It worked. Now they're back and running. I do think the religious connotation of this, i.e. making fun of people who are closed on Sundays for religious reasons, does maybe cross the line and may not be as successful.
I would point out, I just did a little research this morning. I wanted to know how prevalent these blue laws are. You know, it's a blue law when you're closed on Sunday.
Right.
28 states, more than half the states out there, have blue laws still. Most often, you can't sell alcohol on Sundays, but there are some states and counties where you can't hunt, some where you can't gamble. The county I live in New Jersey.
You literally just described my entire Sunday.
Ironically, the county I live in has the highest concentration of shopping malls in the country per capita.
And they're closed on Sunday.
And yet, they're closed on Sunday. It's the only county in the country that has a blue law still where you can't sell retail on Sundays. So
it is amazing. You drive by those malls.
Bergen County, New Jersey.
This county.
Yes.
You drive by
You can't have a mall on Sunday?
No.
Correct.
You drive through Paramus on Sunday, it's all empty. It makes no sense.
I'll just say,
it's kind of nice. I mean, you have to give the workers a day off for pizza.
No, what you do is you drive across the border to New York.
To the Garden State Plaza,
no one's
right? Is that what that's
not
called?
shopping.
The big ugly thing?
As the food reporter, I would like to just point out that we laugh about the back and forth between Chick-fil-A and Popeyes on this, but McDonald's actually had a weaker than expected quarter, and one of the big reasons that analysts pointed out was because they missed out on the chicken sandwich wars, and all of the air was kind of sucked out of the room by these two companies that were going back and forth. So we're laughing about it. We're still talking about it.
But who has the best sandwich? Okay, who's got? I'm going to tell you, I did something I've never done. I went to Shake Shack for the first time ever. I've never been to one on the weekend. I have to say it was delicious. I did find it. They were open. Incredibly expensive. I found it expensive.
I'm going to maintain my.
Is that fair?
Sure.
Cost?
Shake Shack is expensive.
What did you get? I mean,
got a chicken sandwich. Got 10 nuggets, because they have that there. My kid wanted that, so we split the sandwich in half.
It's one of the pricier chains.
She got a milkshake.
Sure.
I got a bottle of water. It was $23.95.
Sounds about right. Yeah,
and you had to wait in line a long time, probably.
No, because we ate at like 11:15. It was like this weird time. Good. Yeah. It was good, though. I'm not knocking Shake Shack. The food was really delicious.
McDonald's is testing one out, so we'll know soon what people think of theirs.
It's about 3 times the price of McDonald's, and I wonder, was it 3 times as good as McDonald's? Yes. I don't know.
Up to you, Brian.
Maybe we can go back to this 36 waste story, and now it's all making sense. Thank you.
Have a lovely afternoon.
You too, Bill Griffith.
Thank you so much.
And have a good Sunday at home when you're not shopping. A new study revealing nearly 100 Fortune 500 companies, that's about 20% according to our math, paid no federal taxes last year. That should make the aforementioned Barney Frank and others a little ticked off. We'll talk about it coming up.
Markets.
Christmas. A time for celebrating, unwrapping, and unwinding. Capture every moment with an epic iPhone 6S with a 12-megapixel camera. Now only $12.99 a month from Tesco Mobile, saving you £72. It's just one of the ways we're celebrating 100 years of great value. Go in store or search Tesco Mobile. Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
Saving £2 per month over 36 months was £14.99. 36-month credit and rolling monthly usage agreements required. Subject to status. Terms apply. See tescomobile.com/terms.
The puck drops. 12 players face off to win. The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. TuneIn brings you every minute of the NHL season. Listen live to hockey when it matters most on TuneIn.
Upgrade to TuneIn Premium and get over 45 commercial-free music stations. You'll also get live commercial-free news, plus live play-by-play games from NFL, MLB, NBA, and NHL. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
What was your favorite podcast of 2019? Well, here's ours.
This is the Open Ears Project, a new daily podcast in which people tell us a story about the piece of classical music that means the most to them.
Part mixtape, part sonic love letter. The Open Ears Project is where people share a classical track that gives a glimpse into their lives and allows us to hear the music and each other differently.
Brought to life things that I couldn't really put into words.
Search Open Ears Project on TuneIn to check it out. When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless.
Follow at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
All right, welcome back. Nearly 100 companies in the Fortune 500 had an effective tax rate of 0 or less. They got money back last year. That's according to a study from the Institute of Taxation and Economic Policy. The report followed the first year following the passage of the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, which became law in December of 2017, and found that 91 of almost 400 profitable companies paid no federal tax. Some of those companies included Amazon, Starbucks, Chevron, Netflix, and FedEx. All right, coming up, not to stress you out, but this is going to stress you out. There are only 7 days left until Christmas. The good news is that Amazon and others offering free next day delivery for the holidays. So for that, let's go to Frank Holland, who's live in Kent, Washington. Frank, what do you got?
Hey there, Brian. Coming up, we have an exclusive look at how Amazon makes free one-day delivery a real thing with the growing use of its fleet of vans. We're going to have a lot more on that coming up on The Exchange.
Today, your information is more exposed than ever. When you shop,
sign in, or browse, you could be vulnerable to cybercriminals. More online threats demand more protection. That's why new Norton 360 provides multiple layers of protection, combining device security, secure VPN, password manager, and cloud backup all in one solution. Get new Norton 360, starting at $24.99 for the first year.
As we wave goodbye to the 2010s, TuneIn is remembering some of the decade's biggest news stories.
In 2011, the Arab Spring sparks anti-government protests across the Middle East and Northern Africa. In 2016, the United Kingdom votes to leave the European Union, forcing the ongoing Brexit crisis. And in 2019, Hong Kong erupts in 6 months of pro-democracy protest against mainland China.
Search news on TuneIn to be there when the next big story breaks.
Are you curious what others are listening to on TuneIn? Head to the trending section under Browse to see the most popular stations and podcasts among TuneIn listeners right now. Check it out. You might just discover something new for yourself.
Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you already have an all-access pass to every team and every game in the league. Amazing, right?
Steps up, floats it towards, at the goal line, it's intercepted!
Listen live as the action unfolds or on demand when you can. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Right side, it is caught, it is in for the right side for the touchdown.
Search NFL today.
Start hearing more of what you want.
Upgrade to TuneIn Premium and get over 45 commercial-free music stations,
Live commercial-free news,
and every live NFL, MLB, NBA, and NHL game.
Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you already have an all-access pass to every team and every game in the league. Amazing, right?
Steps up, floats it towards, at the goal line, it's intercepted!
Listen live as the action unfolds or on demand when you can. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Right side, it is caught, it is in for the right side for the touchdown.
Search NFL today.
All right, welcome back. Amazon just throwing down the shipping gauntlet yet again, no longer allowing third-party sellers to use FedEx Ground for Prime deliveries. Company also adding free next-day shipping this year as it ramps up for something called the holidays. For that, let's go to Frank Collin. He is live in Kent, Washington. We'll look at how they're going to deliver. Frank, they got to deliver on that. You buy something for your kids, it better get there.
Brian, I think a lot of parents share that sentiment that you have. Also, Amazon's really kind of grown its arsenal in these shipping wars. The company's global fleet of vans has increased by 150% since it started its program back in June of 2018. And these vans, they're operated by independent owners who partner with Amazon to very literally be the engine of free one-day shipping. We got to check out one of these delivery stations where this all happens today exclusively here in the Seattle area. And this is all part of Amazon's ramping up. Next year, it's projected to deliver 50% more than FedEx, its one-time partner. We've been talking about that all day. And in general, the head of delivery experience, Maria Renz, who was the former top advisor, Jeff Bezos, she said these vans are an increasingly important part of the company's strategy.
As our volume grew, we saw the opportunity for more people to come and offer a great experience to our customers. Delivery service providers, or DSPs, are that important link in the chain.
Brian, right now, Amazon delivers just about 50% of its own packages. That's expected to jump up to 70% next year. Shipping wars continue. Back over to you.
All right, Frank Collin, just in time and in time for the holidays out there in Kent, Washington. Frank, we appreciate it. Well, 2019 may go down as the year of consumer impatience, and companies are going all out to deliver things as fast as possible, like Frank just told you. But UPS, DHL, Amazon, FedEx, and more, they're deploying entire fleets of planes, drones, delivery bikes, and robots, all in the shipping wars for your dollars. So who is ahead? Who's falling behind in that last-mile delivery race? Joining us is Jason Del Rey, Senior Commerce Editor at Recode and host of the podcast, Land of the Giants. Jason, welcome.
Thank you.
I recently got an Amazon package delivered to my house by a very nice individual in her car. It was a private citizen in her Nissan Pathfinder wearing like a yellow thing that said Amazon on that. Is that, it's good for them. It creates a whole level of entrepreneur. Is it good for Amazon? I mean, we'll see long term. I think right now they're just patching together this delivery network however they can for a couple reasons. One is they feel like the carriers cannot handle the capacity of growth that Amazon's seeing. And two, long term, they're going to bring their costs way down if they can do this successfully.
If they can do it. But that very nice woman who delivered that package, maybe she's sick one day. If FedEx or UPS has an ill driver, they're going to replace that driver with somebody else to make sure I get the package.
Correct. And so, behind the scenes, this thing is chaotic. And
Is it chaotic?
I believe so. I have some anecdotal tips I've gotten over the last week from USPS offices, upstate, which is, Amazon's relying on to try to get their deliveries as quickly as possible, and talking about, open pallets of packages being left. So Amazon is just, they are scrambling. I mean, they're very efficient, but they are scrambling to fulfill these promises that they keep ramping up. So 2-day delivery for many years, now next day delivery, and we know, of course, same day delivery.
But it's not just them, because they're the reason we're not picking on Amazon, but their innovations are forcing Walmart, Target, and others to follow. Correct. Because we are an impatient. We want it now. We get angry when Wi-Fi doesn't work on an airplane.
Yes.
In a 36,000-foot tube, we're mad. We want everything now. So how is it affecting other companies?
Sure. So Walmart, earlier this year, around the same time as Amazon, you could debate who actually, was going to announce it first. I know there's some questions inside Walmart about that. They said next day delivery is something we're going to do without a membership fee. But if you notice, the first 2 weeks of December, Walmart actually they removed the next day delivery option. And when they announced it, they had an asterisk that said, we may not be able to do this during all peak days. It turned out 2 weeks of peak season, they decided maybe
but the consumer has to be aware. I mean, you can't order something like late night the 23rd, and they're going to promise, but things are going to happen. This is not a perfect system.
Consumers, because of Amazon, have the expectations built up over the years that when something says delivered in 2 days or shipped in 2 days, I will get it. Now, whether or not they should be, they should know that something might go wrong. Those are the expectations.
Yeah.
It's a little sad, but it's the way it is.
Well, we want it now, man. Impatient society, but it's worked out. Jason Del Rey, thank you very much. You know what? I want to bring you back on at some point, talk about all these boxes. What's the second derivative Amazon impact on recycling and everything? But that's for a different segment.
I'd be happy to.
Thank you, Jason. All right, coming up, Congress voting on a $1.4 trillion spending bill today, but what are they actually voting for or against? We'll take a closer look at some of the items not being talked about in mainstream media, but you're going to want to hear about and know about. Stick around.
I'm George Kurtz.
This week at Tesco, whole beef roasting joints and whole legs of lamb are half price. That's a whole lot of halves off a whole lot of wholes. What a mouthful. Tesco, delivering Christmas for 100 years. Max 2 per customer, selected stores, excludes Express, ends 31st of December.
The puck drops. 12 players face off to win. The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. TuneIn brings you every minute of the NHL season. Listen live to hockey when it matters most on TuneIn.
In the stock market and in life, everything can change from 1 minute to the next. Be the first to hear the latest money news and market trends with CNBC on TuneIn. Wherever your day takes you, listen to CNBC's full slate of programming, including shows like Fast Money, Squawk Box, and Mad Money with Jim Cramer. And when the next big business story breaks, CNBC lets you know with live updates and commentary. At the office, at home, or on the go. Search CNBC on TuneIn to listen.
Be better informed, be better prepared. The Better Network is on TuneIn. This is Brent Musburger. Search BETR and start hanging out with me and my guys in the desert weekday afternoons. The Better Network is now on TuneIn.
Back to throw, fires right on the slant. Caught, touchdown. He leaps and he surges in, touchdown.
This Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, the lights shine bright on the Las Vegas Bowl. Washington Huskies head coach Chris Peterson will coach his final game before retiring as he takes on his former school, the Boise State Broncos.
Down to the 5, he leaps for the end zone, and he is in.
To listen to this and every bowl game, just search college football today.
Far wing elevates, triple bucket.
The roar of the crowd. The shot clock ticks down. Will the ball go in? The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. And the replays just don't cut
the
it.
Sideline, the Van Fleet for three.
TuneIn Premium brings you every minute of the NBA season streaming live, so you can be there when it matters most. Hear it now, hear it live on TuneIn.
Fake in the lane, turnaround jumper from 8 feet is good on the
Search
right block.
NBA Today to start listening.
This is not a commercial. This is a reminder. With TuneIn Premium, you could be listening to more music commercial-free. Get over 45 commercial-free music stations. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
All right, right now, as we speak, the White House and Congress hammering out a $1.4 trillion spending bill to avoid a government shutdown. But there will be changes for Wall Street and Main Street. Let's dig through a little bit of that fine print. Joining us now, Ilan Moy in D.C. and Neve Ellis, reporter for The Hill. Ilan, let's start with you. I understand they're negotiating and possibly voting right now.
Yeah, the vote hasn't taken place just yet, but we are waiting for it. And look, Brian, this bill is important for a lot of the obvious reasons. It would fully fund the government through the end of the next fiscal year. It averts the need for another government shutdown or the potential for another government shutdown. But there is a reason why these are called Christmas tree legislations, and that is because there is a little present for everybody inside these bills. One of the biggest winners is the healthcare industry. The deal would permanently repeal 3 of the ACA taxes that have been most onerous to businesses, as they say, including the Cadillac tax, the medical device tax, and the annual fee on health insurers. Altogether, those 3 taxes add up to something like $370 billion over the next decade. So they've got to be pretty happy right now.
Neve, you've dug in, I imagine, a little bit on this. What to you sort of sticks out as either the most impactful, the most surprising, or just the downright most disgusting thing that you've seen?
Well, there are all sorts of things that we see sort of thrown in on here. I mean, the 3 healthcare taxes are a good example. One of the interesting ones is there was an entire package of tax extenders that was agreed to in the late hours of last night. So they're going to be extending breaks for small breweries and for small distillers that were set to expire. Another interesting one was that there was a real push from electric car makers to extend the credit that goes towards electric cars, and that's something that they did not get to go through. So that's something that electric car manufacturers are very upset about, because especially the ones that were at the forefront, like Tesla and GM, the way that it works was that it was the first 200,000 cars get this credit. So the ones that have been out at the forefront are basically running out of cars to get that credit. Anyone else who's getting into the game a little later, now that the technology is more developed, a little cheaper, they still have all of that. So the ones that have been pushing forward are sort of saying, oh, great, now we're getting left behind.
That's a big deal. I mean, we showed, by the way, we're not picking on Audi. I like their e-tron. It's a good-looking car, but it's basically $20,000 more expensive than the Q7, kind of the same car, just with the gas engine, Neve. I mean, that's going to be a big deal to a consumer. Electric cars are still kind of third cars for rich people right now.
Absolutely, and that's the kind of thing that electric car manufacturers are hoping to change. They're saying this is the future if we want a greener future, not to mention that there are just a lot more people that are conscious about it and don't want to be polluting every time they get into their car. So they say that they need this in order to stay in business and continue manufacturing these cars in an affordable way while the technology continues to develop and become cheaper.
Yeah, and by the way, something else is that I guess, Ilan, a federal law that you can't buy cigarettes now until you're 21. I know a lot of people probably agree with that, but it's a big change for the industry.
Yeah, not just cigarettes, but any tobacco products. And this is something that was actually supported by the industry. Again, had bipartisan support, both from Senator Mitch McConnell as well as from Hawaii Senator Brian Schatz. Not two people who normally get along or agree on a lot of issues. But that's just one example of the kinds of extraneous policies and provisions that have been put into this bill. The bigger you have a piece of legislation, sometimes the easier it is to get the deal done, because both parties can walk away with a win.
All right. Thank you guys very, very much. A great discussion there. We'll just wait till the final print comes out. A lot of people are going to be angry, but that kind of describes a lot of people anyway. Guys, thank you very much. That does it for The Exchange. I'll see you at 5 p.m. tonight on Fast Money. Power Lunch begins right now.
Brian, thank you very much. Welcome, everybody. I'm Tyler Matheson, and here is what's new at 2 on Power Lunch. The Bulls are back, and the Bears, at least for these days, going into hibernation, at least according to the Bank of America. We will tell you how high Wall Street thinks this market might go. Plus, Boeing suspending production of its 737 MAX as things there go from bad to worse for the aerospace giant. A top analyst is going to tell us how the stock is fighting the turbulence. And later, Amazon and FedEx going head-to-head during the last mile of this holiday season. We've got those details as Power Lunch starts right now.
Welcome to Power Lunch. I'm Seema Modi. Take a look at where we stand for the market. Stocks are higher, continuing their climb to new heights. All three major indices hitting new record highs today. Keep an eye on the small caps. The Russell's still about 5% away from its all-time high. And draw your attention to shares of Netflix. The stock jumping nearly 4%. The streaming giant breaking out details on its international data showing growth in key global markets like Asia Pacific, Europe, Middle East, and Africa.
Seema, thank you very much. Shares of Boeing are slightly lower right now after being down 11 of the previous 13 sessions. That's a streak, folks. The impact of its shutdown of the 737 MAX production on the economy, not just on Boeing, is going to be a big deal, as Steve Leisman explains. Hi, Steve.
Hey, Tyler, it may be hard to imagine, but economists forecast that Boeing's decision to halt production of this 737 MAX will likely have a measurable effect on U.S. economic growth in the first quarter. The negative effects actually could be even larger than last year's government shutdown. Forecasters both J.P. Morgan and Oxford say the production halt could shave as much as a half point off first quarter growth. Morgan Stanley looks for a 0.8 percentage point hit to growth. The problem is that the first quarter already was looking weak. Now it could come in closer to 1% instead of the forecast 1.6. That would make it one of the weakest growth quarters in several years. Growth is expected to rebound when production returns, but when is an open question. Morgan Stanley just writing in a piece, assuming production ramps back up in 2Q20, a highly uncertain timing assumption, we would expect to see more than 100 basis point boost to Q2 GDP. For now, Boeing saying it won't lay off any of the 12,000 workers who build the 737. But if the stoppage grinds on, suppliers might find it tough to hold the line on jobs, and eventually Boeing could too, Tyler.
All right, Steve, thank you very much. Steve Leisman. Let's talk a little bit more about what this means for Boeing and the industry more broadly. With us now, Sheila Kahyaoglu, an analyst at Jefferies, and Phil LeBeau. Welcome to both of you. Phil, nice to have you in the house.
Good to be
here. And Sheila, also to you.
You.
We've usually seen you from over at 30 Rock. Glad to have you here. How long is this damage going to be a weight on Boeing's share price and on the company? How long does it take before this is really in the rearview mirror?
We have a target price that's $420 in 12 months' time. And I think what you'll see in a lot of 2020 and 2021 estimates is the working off of inventory. And that's really the question. So we have 384 aircraft that are grounded and 400 that are built through December. So that at the 42 per month production rate. So it's about how quickly Boeing could shave off that 800 inventory that are currently in storage mode.
So 420 is your price target on this, and you think it will get there by this time next year?
I think so. I think we'll have that dialogue. It'll be a turbulent ride back there, but I think we'll see return to service. We have an estimate of the first half, late in the first half in 2020.
As you were explaining before we came on air, Phil, they're going to look at every single one of these planes, the ones that are in sort of mothballs right now, in storage, and presumably all of the planes that are or were in service all around the globe.
The ones you want to focus on are the ones that are built but not yet delivered. What the FAA said was that in the past, they would have designated authorization reps. In other words, if you were Boeing, I'd say, you know what, Tyler and Steve and Sheila, they work for you, they're good. They can go and they can approve these planes. Allows you to approve and certify, put airworthiness certificates in those planes much quicker. Now the FAA has said, no, we're going to do it. So it's a much slower process. Now, could that change 3 months down the road if things are going well? Could the FAA decide, you know what, we're pretty comfortable with what we see here. Now we're going to have some DARs who are going to speed up the authorization of these planes.
Does this speak to the communication issue, Sheila? I mean, Boeing has not been transparent as much as it perhaps should have been with shareholders, waiting till the 17th of December to announce the production halt, which will start in January. And it's already provided repeatedly a number of unrealistic scenarios to shareholders about when the 737s will return to service.
Sure. So I think Boeing has laid out a framework. In July on the earnings call, it said it would halt production if there was no return to service visibility by the end of this year. But they've laid out a framework for its industry partners, whether it's its supply chain or its airline customers that need to figure out their fleet planning as well. So with that said, sometimes the financial community takes that as financial guidance, but it's not as easy as giving tax rate for the next quarter out. It has a bunch of variables associated with it that it has no control over.
And just in Boeing's defense, it was really Steve Dixon, the head of the FAA, coming out and saying, it ain't happening this year, and it's going to be into 2020. That was really the trigger. That's when they were like, okay, now we've got all of these planes that are built. Do we still want to add on to the inventory? Do we want to have 520 of these? And then you're really looking at an issue in terms of not only continuing production, but also then trying to work off that inventory.
Phil, for forecasting purposes, how good is that second quarter return to service? Because you said they had like 400 plus planes in inventory?
About 400.
Why would they start making them again until they at least cleared out part of that inventory?
Well, I don't think it's just flip the switch and immediately you're going to see 42 a month. I think it's going to be waking up the factory and gradually increasing that. And that's why some are saying, look, we think it'll be shut down for most of the first quarter. I don't know what your guidance is, but most analysts that I've talked with have said, look, we think it's gone for most of the first quarter, might extend a little bit into the second quarter.
How many people are going to be furloughed because of this?
No furloughs. As of now,
they're going to carry those people on the payroll.
Everybody will continue to be paid. There are no planned furloughs. Now, look, if this gets extended out into Q2 or further, well, then they might have to revisit this.
That's 12,000 jobs at the Renton, Washington plant, at the 737 plant. But that does not include the workers at the other suppliers like GE, like Safran, among others, that are being affected by this.
Great point. I mean, what is a company like Spirit Aerosystems?
Are those jobs at risk, Sheila?
Well, I think the supply chain has been fairly well accommodated up to this point, producing at a rate of 42, just 10 below where Boeing was prior to the grounding. And so they've seen minimal financial impact. So they'll carry that burden as we halted production.
But it's different now. The production isn't going to be 42. It's going to be zero for a particular amount of time. Let's go to a question here, and maybe it's a naive question, Sheila, or maybe it's on the mark, and that is this. Is one of the things that insulates Boeing the idea that there really isn't a viable competitor or alternative to this aircraft? Because if you go to Airbus, you're going to wait.
Yeah, I think we've heard from Airbus that you would have to wait for 2023, 2024. And it's interesting that out of the 4,500 MAX aircraft in backlog, you haven't seen one official order switch from Boeing to Airbus aircraft. So I think the backlog has pretty much stayed intact. Of course, we've assumed some of those aircraft go away, and we've called them phantom aircraft, but I think it shows that the customer hasn't spoken.
All right, folks, thanks very much. Phil, good to see you.
Good to be here.
Sheila,
thank you
very much. Great. Seema?
All right, coming up on Power Lunch, stocks once again hitting all-time highs today. The Dow trading at 28,300. It seems nothing can stop this rally except for maybe DC dysfunction. We will get to that. Plus, FedEx set to report earnings after the bell, a day after a dust-up with Amazon. Will FedEx deliver? Stay with us. We're back in 2.
Each day, our planet awakens. How's work? If you're not loving your job and you're getting those Sunday blues, now's the time to make a change. With a LinkedIn app, it's now easier to find and land the job meant for you. There are millions of jobs on offer, and the LinkedIn app helps you hear about them first. Research shows applying within the first 10 minutes increases your chances of hearing back by up to 4 times. Stay in the know and grow your career. Download the free LinkedIn app today.
Ho, ho, ho. Who's made a list this year?
I want a new phone, one with amazing cameras, ultra-wide lens, of course, live focus video. Well, it has to be 5G ready to stream all my films. Can it come with something awesome to listen to them through?
Darling, I think he was talking to the kids.
Get everything you want and more. Purchase a Samsung 5G ready device and claim a pair of silver wireless Galaxy Buds at no extra cost. Shop our 5G handsets in store or online at your local O2 store or o2.co.uk. 18 plus. Offer excludes Galaxy Fold 5G. Purchased by the 25th of the 12/19. Claim from Samsung within 30 days. T's and C's apply.
This week at Tesco, whole beef roasting joints and whole legs of lamb are half price. That's a whole lot of halves off a whole lot of wholes. What a mouthful. Tesco, delivering Christmas for 100 years. Max 2 per customer, selected stores, excludes Express, ends 31st of December.
Be better informed, be better prepared. The Better Network is on TuneIn. This is Brent Musburger. Search BETR and start hanging out with me and my guys in the desert weekday afternoons. The Better Network is now on TuneIn.
Pascal gobbles up the rebound and slams it down.
Catch your favorite NBA team right here on TuneIn.
A step back deep three is up and in.
Search NBA on TuneIn and hear all the action. The NBA lives on TuneIn.
The puck drops. 12 players face off to win. The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. TuneIn brings you every minute of the NHL season. Listen live to hockey when it matters most on TuneIn.
Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you already have an all-access pass to every team and every game in the league. Amazing, right?
Steps up, floats it towards at the goal line. It's intercepted.
Listen live as the action unfolds or on demand when you can. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Right side, it is caught. It is in for the right side for the touchdown.
Search NFL today.
Welcome back to Power Lunch. A historic impending impeachment vote looms. Stocks, though, are trading at the highest level ever, with the S&P hitting yet another all-time high today. And the bulls keeping their charge forward here. According to Bank of America's new Global Fund Manager survey, investors see more gains ahead. But could D.C. drama spoil the bulls' holiday? Let's bring in Chad Morganlander, portfolio manager with Washington Crossing Advisors. Chad, it's good to see you today. Why do you think investors continue to ignore everything that's happening in D.C., including that impeachment vote set for tomorrow?
Well, the impeachment vote won't have intermediate or long-term ramifications on U.S. growth rates. And when it goes to the Senate, it's going to die on the vine. Investors know that already. And then when it comes to trade deal, we've kicked the can of uncertainty down the road about 2 to 3 months when it comes to China. So overall, the market is anticipating growth rates that will be positive in the United States between 2 and 2.5%. And earnings growth of over 10% going into 2020.
That trade deal is certainly encouraging, but do you think it also diminishes the prospect of yet another rate cut from the Fed in 2020?
Yeah, we don't anticipate that you'll get another rate cut by the Fed, but what the market is cheering is monetary policy being so dovish for the whole entire year, as well as the ECB sitting on their hands. So overall, what you have is you have economic growth that's moving forward. You have inflation trends that are going to be between 1.75% and 2.25%, and the Federal Reserve will sit on its hands. And of course, you'll see an expansion of the balance sheet, of which you're already seeing.
So, Chad, you rank the impeachment risk to the market at basically zero. I guess that you would say election risk to the market is a little bit higher than that, but I'm a little surprised to see that you put U.S. recession risk at basically a third next year. What makes you feel that way?
So, we follow a barometer. Our barometer right now is more or less a diffusion index, and our dashboard is basically trending between 45 and 55, and it's on the lower end right now of our outlook, which just gradually increases the recession odds. Overall, we're not calling for a recession. We think that we're going to see a positive market return in 2020. And of course, you're going to see low rates across the curve in the United States and, of course, throughout the globe in 2020.
How much is Trump getting reelected priced into this market right now, Chad?
Oh, I don't anticipate. I think it's a 50-50 jump ball. So it is being priced into the market. I think what would destabilize the market overall is if you started to see on the Democratic side a candidate that was more hitting the drum of an anti-business sentiment that could cause some market compression or multiple compression overall. But, again, global growth, for 2020 at a plus 3%. I think we're still on firm footing. I think that investors should be overweighting rising dividend stocks, in particular industrial companies that don't have a lot of debt on their balance sheet.
Rising dividend stocks, but you say avoid high dividend stocks. You think those dividends
Yes.
are vulnerable, or?
Yeah, I think there's been this reach for yield, okay, because you have yield, negative interest rates across the globe, and high dividend companies typically have a lot of debt on their balance sheet. They have lower investment grade prospects, and anytime you have an economy that could go into some destabilization or slowdown, those type of companies don't fare as well on a total return basis as rising dividend companies that are consistently growing, consistently profitable, taking their cash flow and reinvesting it back into their business to grow the cash flow in the outer years. So that's what we would like to see companies do, and that's why, hence the reason why we're recommending rising dividend companies.
I want to bring Evan Brown into this market discussion. Evan, what do you like going into 2020? Is it domestic or international, which I feel like at this point everyone and their mom is recommending to clients?
Well, I guess you couldn't count us among them because we are favoring international relative to domestic. There are a lot cheaper markets, emerging markets, Europe and Japan. We're getting a trade.
But cheaper doesn't necessarily mean better, Evan, just because it's trading at a discount to the S&P 500. I mean, fundamentally, does it make sense to buy those stocks overseas when you're still seeing growth of 1% in Europe, maybe Asia a bit stronger?
Well, yeah, so we think the fundamental case is there as well. These are countries that were hit hard by the trade war, but now that you're getting de-escalation, and you're going to see actually an improvement in manufacturing globally and trade globally, then these are the countries that are going to benefit the most, as opposed to the U.S., which is really a more inward-looking market.
We'll leave the market discussion there. Evan Brown of UBS and Chad Morganlander of Washington Advisors, thank you for joining us. Shares of Tesla slightly lower today, but up more than 55% in the past 3 months and just a few percentage points away from a record high. But if history is any guide, the stock could be about to take a big dip. We will explain. Plus, the commissioner of baseball weighing in on big contracts, rule changes, and an issue so controversial it has Bernie Sanders getting involved. Power Lunch. We'll be right back.
Apple Card is a new kind of credit card.
Christmas. A time for celebrating, unwrapping, and unwinding. Capture every moment with an epic iPhone 6S with a 12-megapixel camera. Now only $12.99 a month from Tesco Mobile, saving you £72. It's just one of the ways we're celebrating 100 years of great value. Go in store or search Tesco Mobile. Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
Saving £2 per month over 36 months was £14.99. 36-month credit and rolling monthly usage agreements required. Subject to status. Terms apply. See tescomobile.com/terms.
Spend Christmas Day listening to the NBA on TuneIn Premium. Featuring 5 big matchups on the holiday schedule. Unwrap the action starting at 12 Eastern when the Celtics take on the Raptors in Toronto, followed by the Bucks and the 76ers at 2:30. The holiday cheers continue with the Rockets and Warriors at 5 and the Clippers and Lakers at 8. And a showdown between the Pelicans and Nuggets at 10:30. 'Tis the season with the NBA on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
Do you have a favorite true crime podcast this year? Here's a few of ours. On the latest season of Uncover, journalist Michelle Shepard investigates the unsolved case of a missing Toronto teen that has haunted her for 20
Toronto
years.
Police are continuing a desperate search for a missing...
And on Haunting Warhead, host Damon Fairless exposes the darkest, most shocking corners of the internet and the criminals who lurk in the shadows.
How do you take down a criminal network hidden in the shadows?
Search True Crime on TuneIn to discover these and more life thrillers.
Back to throw, fires right on the slant. Caught, touchdown. He leaps and he surges in, touchdown.
This Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, the lights shine bright on the Las Vegas Bowl. Washington Huskies head coach Chris Peterson will coach his final game before retiring as he takes on his former school, the Boise State Broncos.
Down to the 5, he leaps for the end zone, and he is in.
To listen to this and every bowl game, just search college football today.
A lot of people aren't aware that TuneIn lets you listen to the same terrestrial stations that you pick up on your FM AM dial, except you can hear them from anywhere. To see all the stations broadcasting in your area, find the local radio section on the home screen. Keep it local with TuneIn.
Want TuneIn to remind you when the big NFL game is about to get underway? Be sure notifications are allowed on your phone and search NFL on the TuneIn app. Find the game you want to hear under events and tap Notify Me. We'll let you know exactly when it's time to listen in for kickoff.
Want to hear about the latest and greatest things to listen to on TuneIn? For reminders of the biggest live sports games, debates, and breaking news stories, follow @TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay connected with the audio that matters to you.
And welcome back. We got a news alert to tell you about. The House just passed $1 trillion spending bill. And for the details, we go to Elon Moy in Washington. Hi, Elon.
Hi, Tyler. Well, the price tag on that spending package was $1.4 trillion. Both of the bills that were included in this package passed the House with strong bipartisan support. They now go over to the Senate. And this deal was negotiated not just between Republicans and Democrats, but also directly with Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin. So we do expect that President Trump will sign this bill once it lands on his desk, well before the government runs out of money on midnight on Friday. Now, tucked inside this legislation, there are several provisions that could have a big impact on business, including one that would raise the legal age to purchase tobacco products to 21 across the country. It also extends authorization for the Export-Import Bank for 7 years, and there's even a break for the alcohol industry. Tax cuts for craft brewers and distillers will be extended by another year. Now, once the House has now finished voting on this bill, all attention here on Capitol Hill is going to be focused on impeachment. The House Rules Committee is still debating the parameters for what that debate on the floor will look like. We are still expecting the vote to happen tomorrow, but we just don't know what time yet, guys. Back over to you.
Counting down to that vote. Elon, thank you. Now over to Mike Santoli for Trading Nation. Hi, Mike.
Hello, Seema. Thank you very much. Well, Tesla slowing down slightly today after racing more than 50% higher in the past 3 months. Shares still holding in record high range, though. But one of our next guests is issuing a warning on the stock. Let's bring in your Trading Nation team, Matt Maley of Miller Tabak and Boris Schlossberg of BK Asset Management. So, Matt, this stock has kind of made its way back up to the upper end of its range, of its kind of all-time range. What does that mean to you?
Well, it's just it's getting at a level which things get very dicey if you want to be chasing it up here. I mean, if you look at its weekly RSI chart, it's getting quite overbought. Now, it has gotten more extreme overbought conditions a couple of different times in the past twice, but not much more extreme. And the most important thing, though, is that it's bumping up against its all-time highs of the 300, just above $380. This is a level it's tested 4 other times in the last couple of years, and each time it's been followed by a severe decline. In fact, the smallest decline has been a 20% pullback. So with this overbought condition, you mentioned up 50% in less than 3 months and 100% in 6 months. I think it's going to have a tough time breaking out here. And people, especially as we move into the new year and get past this bullish Santa Claus season, it's going to be a tough one to really rally much further.
Yeah, and of course in the new year, it's a new tax year too, so maybe folks waiting to sell might show up then. But Boris, what does that tell you, if anything, about the longer term prospects for this company?
You know, every time we debate Tesla, it's the single most controversial stock on Trading Nation. It's either basically a scam that's going to fall under its own financial obligations, or it's the Amazon of transportation. But I think when you step back, basically the bottom line is Tesla right now continues to dominate the EV space. The electrical vehicles are definitely better than ICE when you go long term as far as technology goes. And Tesla really trades on news momentum alone. Forget fundamentals, forget financials, forget the fact that CFOs have resigned. Basically, Tesla has improved its mass production, is doing more volume right now, and it has Shanghai coming up. So I would not want to short this thing. I think if it goes through 400, you could have a vertical move and all the shorts are going to get killed. If you want to play this stock, I would just simply play it through options, even though they're probably very expensive because of volatility. It's worth it because when this thing moves either up or down, if Matt is right, it corrects, or if it busts through, I think the move is going to be monumental. So I'd much rather play it through options. But either way, whatever your bias is, I think Tesla is not going to go quietly.
Yeah, bull or bear, it's never boring, this stock anyway. Matt and Boris, thank you very much. For more Trading Nation, head to our website or follow us on Twitter @Trading Nation. Tyler, back over to you.
Michael, thank you very much. And ahead on Power Lunch, the shipping wars. Amazon taking on FedEx in the middle of the holiday shopping season. We'll ask one top analyst what this means for the stock. Plus, peas in a pod, why the fake meat boom could help save America's pea farmer. And the commissioner of baseball sitting down with CNBC How's he going to handle the curveballs that are headed the various leagues' way? All this when Power Lunch continues.
And now, the latest from tradingnation.cnbc.com and a word from our sponsor.
Different sectors tend to do well during different periods of the economic cycle. When the economy is expanding, industrial and technology stocks have historically outperformed the broader market. However, when the economy is contracting, more defensive sectors, such as utilities and consumer staples, tend to outperform. I'm Lee Bohl, and Schwab is the better place for traders.
Okay. Ho, ho, ho. Who's made a list this year? I want a new phone. One with amazing cameras, ultra-wide lens, of course, live focus video. Well, it has to be 5G ready to stream all my films. Can it come with something awesome to listen to them through?
Darling, I think he was talking to the kids.
Get everything you want and more. Purchase a Samsung 5G ready device and claim a pair of silver wireless Galaxy Buds at no extra cost. Shop our 5G handsets in store or online at your local O2 store or o2.co.uk. 18 plus. Offer excludes Galaxy Fold 5G. Purchased by the 25th of the 12/19. Claim from Samsung within 30 days. T's and C's apply.
Forget the cheese basket and socks this holiday season and get the ones you love and even the ones you just kind of like. A subscription to TuneIn Premium. With TuneIn Premium, you'll be giving them the gift they can enjoy all year long. Featuring live NFL, NBA, NHL, and MLB games, commercial-free news, and nonstop music. TuneIn Premium brings the best of audio to you. This year, we're making Santa's job a whole lot easier. So, forget the stocking. Stuff their phone with TuneIn Premium. Search Premium to start your free trial.
Are you curious what others are listening to on TuneIn? Head to the trending section under Browse to see the most popular stations and podcasts among TuneIn listeners right now. Check it out. You might just discover something new for yourself.
As we wave goodbye to the 2010s, TuneIn is remembering some of the decade's biggest news stories.
In 2011, the Arab Spring sparks anti-government protests across the Middle East and Northern Africa. In 2016, the United Kingdom votes to leave the European Union, forcing the ongoing Brexit crisis. And in 2019, Hong Kong erupts in 6 months of pro-democracy protest against mainland China.
Search news on TuneIn to be there when the next big story breaks.
Far wing elevates, triple bucket. The roar of the crowd. The shot clock ticks down. Will the ball go in? The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. And the replays just don't cut it.
The sideline, the man fleet for three.
TuneIn Premium brings you every minute of the NBA season streaming live, so you can be there when it matters most. Hear it now. Hear it live on TuneIn.
Pump fake in the lane, turnaround jumper from 8 feet is good on the
Search
right.
NBA today to start listening.
Be better informed, be better prepared. The Better Network is on TuneIn. This is Brent Musburger. Search BETR and start hanging out with me and my guys in the desert weekday afternoons. The Better Network is now on TuneIn.
I'm Bill Griffith. Here is your CNBC News update this hour. The House Rules Committee has started deliberating to set the parameters for Wednesday's scheduled vote on whether or not to impeach President Trump. Chairman Jim McGovern gavelled the session open.
We've listened to the hearings. We've read the transcripts. And it's clear that this president acted in a way that not only violates the public trust, he jeopardized our national security, and he undermined our democracy. Meanwhile, Rick Gates, President Trump's former deputy campaign manager, was sentenced to 45 days in jail, 3 years probation this morning. Gates and Paul Manafort were the first former Trump campaign officials to be charged by former special counsel Robert Mueller. And finally, family, friends, and fellow officers said goodbye this morning to New Jersey Police Detective Joseph Seals. He was shot and killed last week by two suspects who went on to kill 3 more people in Jersey City. Seals leaves behind a wife and 5 children. And guys, as you know, here in the New York City area, we had a pretty severe ice storm this morning. And even then, hundreds of people, both officers and civilians, lined the streets there in Jersey City in a fitting tribute to a fallen hero.
And they were there early this morning waiting for that service to commence. And, obviously sympathies go to the family. Thanks, Bill.
You got it.
Let's turn our attention to the markets right now. Stocks trying to close in record high territory once again, with the Dow currently up 52 points, led by financials and tech. In fact, a number of banks hitting 52-week highs: Morgan Stanley, Goldman, and Citigroup.
Alrighty, time now for today's power movers, starting with Roku. The company's CFO, Steve Loudon, is leaving, saying he wants to be closer to his family in Seattle. He will stay on to help the company find a replacement. D.A. Davidson says the move was expected. Unilever on pace for its worst day in more than a decade. The company warning that sales growth has been weaker than expected. And two buyouts to tell you about. Tall Grass Energy being bought by Blackstone for more than $4 billion. And Log Me In getting taken over by San Francisco partners and Evergreen Cost Capital for $4.3 billion. The company makes software that allows for remote connectivity. The oil market closing for the day. Eric Chemmy's got the numbers at the commodity desk. Eric?
That's right, Tyler. That's right. Oil prices settling higher. As you can see, the green right here, WTI and Brent settling higher for the fourth consecutive day as traders remain optimistic about global demand growth, especially on the heels of that Phase 1 trade agreement between the United States and China. WTI has held above that key $60 level for each of its last three sessions and is finishing today at its highest level since September. We'll be keeping an eye on two weekly inventory reports out this afternoon and tomorrow morning. Both are expected to show a drawdown in U.S. crude stockpiles, which could further support prices going up even higher. Back to you guys.
Eric, thank you. The shipping wars are heating up with just about 1 week until Christmas. Now, yesterday, during this hour, FedEx shares fell as Amazon announced it is blocking third-party sellers from using FedEx ground delivery shipping. The move putting more pressure on FedEx, which is basically flat for the year, while Amazon is up nearly 20%. And today, FedEx reports second quarter results after the bell. Here with what to expect is Helene Becker, senior analyst with Cowen. She has an outperform rating on FedEx and a $190 price target. So, Helene, this seems like a moment of truth for the company, especially in light of this recent news with Amazon. What are you expecting tonight?
Yes, well, thanks for having me on the show again. So we're expecting earnings of $2.83 for the quarter compared to the street at $2.76. So we're clearly a few cents above consensus. In general, though, we think that FedEx is having a better fiscal year now than they had earlier. I think TNT issues are starting to be resolved. Obviously, China is a big issue for them. I think, the Amazon comment last night was kind of a throwaway in our view because FedEx fired Amazon as a client earlier this year, and the amount of volume that FedEx has that's Amazon is so small, we just don't think it's impacting their results.
But I would say the opposite. If FedEx can't accommodate the deliveries that Amazon is asking them to, doesn't that raise some serious questions about FedEx's competitive advantage and its ability to handle this new environment where we're dealing with last mile shipping, 1 day and 2 day shipping?
Well, FedEx doesn't handle Amazon volume, right? FedEx Express fired them as a client a while back, and then FedEx Ground fired them as a client in June. So there's not a lot of volume that FedEx carries that's Amazon. Most of the Amazon volume is carried by themselves or UPS or the U.S. Postal Service. So I think from FedEx's competitive perspective, they've got the largest fleet among the three. If you want to put Amazon in the logistics provider category for a minute, they've got the largest fleet among the three with 750 aircraft. They've got the youngest fleet. They're retiring the oldest aircraft over the next couple of years as they take delivery of new aircraft. I think they can handle the volume, and I think that their facilities are more automated than some of their competitors. In fact, for this peak season, they only had to hire 55,000 workers, while UPS hired 100,000. So they can handle the volume.
Just to get to the bottom point on Amazon and FedEx's relationship, what I understood Amazon did yesterday was say third-party sellers cannot use Amazon to fulfill orders, and your view is that is a rounding error, a de minimis effect on Amazon, right?
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Let's go to the question of late deliveries. How far behind is FedEx, and is their performance as good as, worse than, the United States Postal Service or Amazon or UPS?
So we estimate that 7 to 9% of all packages will be delayed this Christmas. We estimate that FedEx is probably 9% delayed through today. We think UPS is about 8% delayed through today. I'm not sure about Amazon. I don't get those numbers. So I would say relative to UPS, FedEx is not performing as well. I think Amazon initially said during the first week of December that they had gotten behind because of a combination of volume and weather, and they were working to catch up. But I don't have access to the Amazon data the way I do the UPS and FedEx, so I can't really answer the whole question. I can just answer part of your question.
Okay.
All right, Helene, we'll leave the conversation there. Results due tonight. Helene Becker of Cowen.
And we thank you. We thank you very much. We got a news alert now coming out of Washington, D.C. Eamon Javers is at the White House. Eamon.
Yeah, Tyler, that's right. The President of the United States has now just sent, within the past couple of minutes, a blistering letter to Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. Here's a copy of the letter. It's multiple pages long, and it's an intensive critique of the House Democratic-led impeachment effort against him. This is, if you will, the defense that the President and his team could have mounted if they chose to send a defense team up to the House of Representatives on their behalf. And it is a preview, I think, of the defense that they will mount in any Senate trial that happens after the President is impeached. That vote expected tomorrow. The President here, very critical of this entire process. A lot of it is similar to what we've heard the President say so far in both public remarks and in tweets. But he says to Nancy Pelosi, by proceeding with your invalid impeachment, you are violating your oaths of office, you are breaking your allegiance to the Constitution, and you are declaring open war on American democracy. He goes on to criticize Pelosi for saying that she's praying for the President, saying that she knows that that's not true. He says you are offending Americans of faith by continually saying, I pray for the President, when you know this statement is not true unless it is meant in a negative sense. It is a terrible thing you are doing, but you will have to live with it, not I. The letter goes on in that vein for a number of pages, Tyler, including the criticism of the Democrats that they are the ones who are abusing their power. They are the ones interfering in American elections, and the President himself has done nothing wrong. So we can expect to see more of this during the Senate trial as the President defends himself. If there is an impeachment vote tomorrow, Democrats on Capitol Hill are moving forward with articles of impeachment in the Rules Committee today. Floor votes expected as soon as tomorrow. So we can expect to hear more from the President on all of this as he is here at the White House meeting with foreign leaders today, but ultimately also very much focused on this.
So this is a letter directly from the President of the United States to the Speaker, not from his counsel, not from anybody in his legislative liaison team. This is from him to her.
Yep, there's the signature page there, the familiar Donald J. Trump signature at the bottom of the page. It's addressed to the Honorable Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House of Representatives, and it is a stinging critique of Pelosi herself, the impeachment effort, a resounding defense of himself and his legislative record. All of this is the kind of thing that you've heard the President say before. Presumably the difference here between this and any defense he would have mounted in the House of Representatives is that this is just a letter on paper. This is not under oath, right? And there will be a defense team at some point that will be making similar arguments in any Senate trial that's to come after we see where this impeachment vote lands this week.
So as we move forward over the next 24 to 36 hours on this, and let's point out that even as this war of words escalates between the President and the Speaker, some important legislation moved through the House today, a spending bill, the North American trade agreement with Mexico and Canada looks like it is poised to move as well. So there are the functions of government that are taking place. But as we move into tomorrow, what's going to take place on the floor? The Democrats presumably will present the case, the articles of impeachment that were passed by the Judiciary Committee, and then the Republicans will do what?
Well, the Republicans will vote against them on the floor. The question is, will there be any Republican defectors? Last time around, I covered the Clinton impeachment. There were some defectors who voted against impeachment. The question is, will there be some this time around from the majority party who switched sides, from the minority party who switched sides? There were a handful of both of those last time around. That number will be carefully scrutinized to see just how partisan of an impeachment this will be. But Nancy Pelosi is a very good vote counter. The expectation indication is she wouldn't put this on the floor if she didn't feel extraordinarily confident that she has the votes to impeach the President of the United States. And then it will go to the Senate for a trial to determine whether or not the president should be removed from office. And the tone around this is as bitter as it could possibly be. Again, quoting here from the letter from the president to the Speaker of the House, you just never really see anything like this in letters from presidents to speakers. He says, he accuses Democrats of wanting to impeach him for years now. He says, so you have spent 3 straight years attempting to overturn the will of the American people and nullify their votes. You view democracy as your enemy, exclamation point, from the President of the United States to the Speaker of the House.
Certainly strong words, Eamon. I'm also reading it here. It's a terrible thing you are doing, but you will have to live with it, not I. Do you expect a response from Nancy Pelosi ahead of that vote tomorrow?
I would imagine Nancy Pelosi could respond directly to it, or she could simply allow the impeachment vote to be her response. I mean, it does feel as if that is all but inevitable tomorrow. You never say absolutely in this Washington, because this is a Washington, D.C. that surprises us all the time these days. But it does feel like the Democratic effort to impeach a Republican president is in full swing up there. And then we'll see where we go with the Senate trial. The question now is, what procedures and processes and time frame will that Senate trial have? The trial involving Bill Clinton, after he was impeached by the House of Representatives, lasted, I believe, for 5 weeks. I was in the chamber the day that President Clinton was acquitted, and he survived that trial by making a defense of himself on the merits of the complaint against him, and also on the politics, saying ultimately that was about his personal life. It had nothing to do with the American voters. We'll see what kind of a defense this president mounts if we get there in January.
All right. Eamon Javers, thank you very much. And I'm sure many people will be eager to read the letter from the president to the speaker. To the bond market we go, and Rick Santelli tracking the action at the CME. Hi, Rick.
Hi, good afternoon, Tyler. You know, volatility, it's a big deal because the size of big investor positions seems to move with it. Quantitative strategies, it's called. Look at the TY VIX, lowest volatility in treasuries in 6 months. Now, think about it. The long end has been doing most of the big movements because the short end is paused with the Fed. And 10s and 2s have been whipping around, but whether rates go up or down, it's steepening. Look at a 4 session of 10s minus 2s. It's at 26. See how it's moved higher? Zoom it back. Well, you see, we are basically at the highest level since mid-November. One tick away from challenging that. Zoom back farther to July. That 27 November high currently trading at 26. Well, we haven't seen those levels since July. Finally, you know, we haven't talked enough about grains. Obviously, the Chinese trade deal is moving through. We're ultimately going to have a signed phase 1. And look what it's doing to grains. Wheat in particular, right now at the best levels since June of 2018. Seema, back to you.
Rick, we're going to stick with that farm beat because coming up, struggling farmers are hoping for peas on Earth this holiday season. Jane Wells is live on a farm in Montana. Jane.
Yeah, Seema, we're talking literally frozen peas right now. Pea profits are split in half by a tariff war. Can companies like Beyond Meat save the day? We are live from Flaxville, Montana, when Power Lunch returns.
The Bond Report.
Christmas. A time for celebrating, unwrapping, and unwinding. Capture every moment with an epic iPhone 6s with a 12-megapixel camera. Now only $12.99 a month from Tesco Mobile, saving you £72. It's just one of the ways we're celebrating 100 years of great value. Go in store or search Tesco Mobile. Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
Saving £2 per month over 36 months was £14.99. 36-month credit and rolling monthly usage agreements required. Subject to status. Terms apply. See tescomobile.com/terms.
Christmas. A time for celebrating, unwrapping, and unwinding. Capture every moment with an epic iPhone 6s with a 12-megapixel camera. Now only $12.99 a month from Tesco Mobile, saving you £72. It's just one of the ways we're celebrating 100 years of great value. Go in store or search Tesco Mobile. Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
Saving £2 per month over 36 months was £14.99. 36-month credit and rolling monthly usage agreements required. Subject to status. Terms apply. See tescomobile.com/terms.
It was 1970, and a pregnant Air Force captain found herself in a bind.
If you're pregnant, you cannot be active duty. If you have a child, you cannot be active duty.
So she sued. This week, On the Media examines the case that almost set the course for women's reproductive rights. Instead, to Justice Ginsburg's dismay, we got Roe v. Wade. On this week's On the Media from WNYC. Listen to the On the Media podcast on TuneIn today.
As we wave goodbye to the 2010s, TuneIn is remembering some of the decade's biggest news stories.
In 2011, the Arab Spring sparks anti-government protests across the Middle East and Northern Africa. In 2016, the United Kingdom votes to leave the European Union, forcing the ongoing Brexit crisis. And in 2019, Hong Kong erupts in 6 months of pro-democracy protest against mainland China.
Search news on TuneIn to be there when the next big story breaks.
Spend Christmas Day listening to the NBA on TuneIn Premium. Featuring 5 big matchups on the holiday schedule. Unwrap the action starting at 12 Eastern when the Celtics take on the Raptors in Toronto, followed by the Bucks and the 76ers at 2:30. The holiday cheers continue with the Rockets and Warriors at 5 and the Clippers and Lakers at 8. And a showdown between the Pelicans and Nuggets at 10:30. 'Tis the season with the NBA on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
Are you curious what others are listening to on TuneIn? Head to the trending section under Browse to see the most popular stations and podcasts among TuneIn listeners right now. Check it out. You might just discover something new for yourself.
Companies like Beyond Meat started a meatless mania by creating alternatives to meat derived from pea protein. Now farmers are hoping even more people will give peas a chance. Jane Wells joining us now from Flaxville, Montana. Jane.
Hey, Tyler. Yep, there's a lot of peas still in supply here. Way too many. Okay, so here's the deal. Farmers are starting to make their decisions for 2020, and increasingly they're considering peas as part of their crop rotation. Take a look at these maps. Pea acreage has gone up dramatically in the last quarter century, since the mid-90s to where it is now. I mean, it's shooting up too much. There's too much supply. Prices for peas are now at 20-year lows. They're below break even. Canada's eating our lunch because our peas are mostly exported and they're subject to very stiff tariffs from our 2 biggest customers, India and China.
Within the span of about 2 years, we're down about 300,000 metric tons in demand from our 2 largest suppliers. And so that's a little hard to make up.
So domestic demand's starting to ramp up some. You got Beyond Meat, not just them. Tyson has a new product that's half pea and half beef. And look at this. Cargill has invested $100 million in Purist Foods, which is a pea protein company that provides stuff to Beyond Meat and others. It's run by a former NFL player who's taken over the business from his dad, and he's out there trying to convince all kinds of farmers to use peas as part of their crop rotation.
There's a lot of beauty in peas, specifically because they're nitrogen fixating. So they take nitrogen from the air and convert it to usable fertilizer for itself, but they overproduce it, so they make fertilizer for the next plant.
So here's the deal. It's kind of a good win-win, maybe. Even if you're not making a lot of money on peas, they're so good for the soil, you can make more money on the crops you have that are profitable. And hey, even if you can make money on peas now, that's even better and might give you peace of mind, guys.
Jane, thank you very much. Great to be with you. Eat your peas.
All right, it's been a good offseason for Major League Baseball so far, with record-breaking contracts keeping the sport in the news. But with 2 months until pitchers and catchers report, the league is facing a lot of issues. What Commissioner Rob Manfred had to say about the pace of play, the minor leagues, and more. That's coming up. Stay with us.
I'm Tom Steyer, and I approve this message.
On the goal line, scores! It takes it home!
Hockey fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
Here's Pietrangelo, he scores!
And you can hear hear the action live on TuneIn Premium.
Move, and a shot, they stop!
From regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium.
Upgrade today.
Start hearing more of what you want. Upgrade to TuneIn Premium and get over 45 commercial-free music stations, live commercial-free news, and every live NFL, MLB, NBA, and NHL game. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
Far wing elevates, triple bucket. The roar of the crowd. The shot clock ticks down. Will the ball go in? The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. And the replays just don't cut it.
The sideline, the man fleet for three.
TuneIn Premium brings you every minute of the NBA season streaming live, so you can be there when it matters most. Hear it now, hear it live on TuneIn.
Fake in the lane, turnaround jumper from 8 feet is good on the right
Search
block.
NBA today to start listening.
When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip
Follow
Bayless.
at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
Introducing a new podcast, ESPN Daily. When you want to go beyond your feed, when you want to get inside the score, when you want to get behind the highlight, there's ESPN Daily. Go deeper into the stories of the moment. Get the exclusive access and insider perspective that only ESPN can give you. ESPN Daily, hosted by me, Mina Kimes. Listen now to ESPN Daily on TuneIn.
He leaps and he surges in. Touchdown.
It is college football bowl season on TuneIn. This Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, the bowl season kicks off from the beautiful Bahamas.
Back to throw, fires right on the slant. Caught, touchdown.
The Charlotte 49ers will be playing their first bowl game in school history. They'll be matched up against the Buffalo Bulls. Don't miss the first bowl game of the season. To listen to this and every bowl game, just search college football today.
Never a bad time to talk about baseball. The baseball hot stove has been keeping the sport on the front burner this winter because of, among other things, 3 huge contracts worth more than $800 million that were signed in just the past couple of weeks. But there are still plenty of curveballs for Commissioner Rob Manfred to deal with, including new media deals, proposed rule changes, and a major controversy over the minor leagues. In from the bullpen, the crafty right-hander, CNBC.com sport business reporter Jabari Young. Jabari,
how'd you know I was right-handed?
I didn't. I just guessed. It's a good guess. So what is it, 15% are lefties? Yeah. Let's start with media deals. At a time when baseball ratings, at least for playoffs in the World Series, are not what they were, you got a couple of deals coming up next year, ESPN and I believe it's Turner. What did Manfred say?
Well, you know, you look at the deal that they just extended with Fox, right, worth $5.1 billion. They're going to see an increase in their percentage. You know, Rob kind of joked with me when we met in the winter meetings. He says, listen, our last deal with Fox, we got a 40% increase. So what do you think is going to happen with ESPN and Turner? Should both of those want to retain the MLB rights? But
where does streaming fit in this?
You know what? That's interesting, Tyler, because if you look at the Turner deal, when do you watch baseball on Turner Sports, right? Only during the postseason.
Playoffs.
Right. So I think MLB's looking at this like we want more content distribution all year. And I feel like programs, streaming companies, Amazon, whoever else wants to get into the mix, I think they may have a play here because in an age where media rights in sports have continued to increase, I think baseball is going to look at this very, very carefully and say, hey, listen, what is our best option to make sure that like the NBA and NFL, everybody's talking about us all year long. And I feel like streaming rights and content on the streaming platform may help that.
Is there a specific streaming player that could have an advantage here?
Yeah, well, we'll see. I think right now ESPN and Turner, they still have the rights after next year, after next season, 2021, I believe, is when their deal's up. Then I feel like, and even Rob Manfred said, we're going to start talking next year. So I think as time goes and it gets nearer to that deadline, that I think you'll start to hear Amazon and Netflix, other streaming players. Yeah, I don't think Netflix, but, the Hulus of the world, maybe even, ESPN comes with them with a different package on Disney Plus now. But I feel like baseball wants to see more content distribution around their sport all year long, and I think that's what they'll be looking for in the next media rights deal with these.
Baseball has an aging issue, it seems to me. When you go to the games are largely attended by older white males.
Yeah.
Okay? What are they doing to try and attract and diversify their audience, skew it younger, skew it into other communities, speed the game, whatever?
Well, this is one of Rob Manfred's babies. This is one of the things that he's really proud of that the MLB is doing, and that's going back into certain communities, particularly urban communities, and introducing the game to them via going and repairing and renovating fields. They did one in Harlem a couple of years ago. Now they're going to be looking at, they just started their program. They're going to be doing it now, this upcoming summer. So I think that's one of the key issues, is going back into communities to introduce the game. And then when you introduce the game to younger kids, they grow up liking the game and following the game. I think esports is going to help that too. There's a lot of kids playing video games now. If MLB continues to be a player in the esports field, I think you'll start to see kids look at the game and it'll gravitate and it'll be better for them. But another issue is that they got this ballpark pass that they have, and it's like subscribing to a Netflix. You subscribe to this, or certain teams have it, not everybody, but you subscribe to a ticket package and you get to go to any game you want to, any home game throughout that time.
It's like what the ski resorts have done. It's just like
and I think that's a great idea. That's a good idea for baseball, because in this age now with younger kids, they don't want to plan. They don't want to have to be obligated to something. So you give them that option. And I think over the next few years, the next decade, I think baseball is going to keep an eye on that.
They're going to put pitchers on a pitch clock?
Three batter minimum, 3 batter minimum rule. And I think that 5 to 10 minutes will actually change the actual pace or the actual length of the game.
Yeah, we need that.
We'll
we need momentum. I mean, how much would that shorten the overall game?
Yeah, they're talking about a matter of minutes. And if you really put it in, is it really going to change
3 hours versus 3 hours and 5 minutes? Big deal.
Right. But it's going to change strategies. And that's why a lot of managers I talk to at the winter meetings, they don't really like it, because now you lose the ability to match a batter with a pitcher or vice versa.
Tell me about what's going on with the minor leagues. There's been a kerfuffle. The MLB would like to sever relationships, as I understand it, with some 40 teams, and they might go away, or they might form their own independent leagues. Tell me about it.
Well, this is a cost. This is a cost and a revenue thing. You go look at it from both sides. Baseball is saying, hey, listen, we invest in these minor league teams because we're trying to produce better player development. We're not getting that. The players have to travel too far on a bus. The stadiums aren't up to par. Where's our investment coming from this? And then you look at it on the other side of the field, which is why you have politicians getting involved. Where are these baseball communities? They're in places like Vermont, Bernie Sanders. They're in places like Connecticut. These are small towns.
Upstate New York.
Yes, with heavy political connections. And you got to understand, they have, real estate deals. They have, sponsorship deals. And they have communities that have invested in these teams. And it's the only thing that they have. And so they're going to fight for it. And I think that what you're going to see is, Tyler, they're going to be teams that it may shrink. I don't think it'll be eliminated, but it may shrink. And I think that's kind of, you're satisfying both parties in that. You get to keep minor league baseball just with shorter teams.
Who knew? Baseball is so much more than a sport.
Yes.
Politically.
I like it. Rob Manfred's a good guy. And speaking of commissioners, thoughts and prayers to David Stern. Ever since I've started at CNBC, David Stern has done a very good job allowing me to understand the perspective of certain things that, business related to the NBA. And I wish his family, the best. And thoughts and prayers with him right now.
All right. Thank you. Jabbar Young, CNBC's sports business reporter. For more of his news and the full interview with MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred, you can find it on CNBC.com.
Check Please is next.
How's work? If you're not loving your job and you're getting those Sunday blues, now's the time to make a change. With a LinkedIn app, it's now easier to find and land the job meant for you. There are millions of jobs on offer, and the LinkedIn app helps you hear about them first. Research shows applying within the first 10 minutes increases your chances of hearing back by up to 4 times. Stay in the know and grow your career. Download the free LinkedIn app today.
Slam dunk! The NBA is on TuneIn Premium. Each week, TuneIn picks an NBA game you just can't miss. 4 of the league's top teams are in action as the Lakers take on the Bucks at 8 p.m. Eastern, followed by the Rockets taking on the Clippers at 10:30 p.m. Eastern.
11-2.
This Thursday, the Lakers are at the Bucks at 8 p.m. Eastern, and the Rockets are at the Clippers, 10:30 p.m. Eastern. Search NBA on TuneIn to follow your favorite NBA team today.
Ah, finally another commercial, said no one ever. Visit tunein.com/premium to upgrade now and get over 45 commercial-free music stations.
In Washington, D.C., there's only one word in everybody's mouth: impeachment. As the impeachment process moves on to the next stage, don't miss history unfolding on TuneIn. Wherever you are when the latest witness takes the stand, you can listen to every hearing live as it's happening on Capitol Hill. And between hearings, turn to stations like CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News Talk for bombshells, breaking headlines, and bold analysis every step of the way. Search Impeachment News on TuneIn to hear the latest.
Want to know a quick, easy way to see if your favorite podcasts have a new episode available? Just go to the home screen on your TuneIn app and see the latest editions under the Your New Episode section. Happy listening.
He leaps and he surges in. Touchdown.
It is college football bowl season on TuneIn. This Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, the bowl season kicks off from the beautiful Bahamas.
Back to throw, fires right on the slant. Caught, touchdown.
The Charlotte 49ers will be playing their first bowl game in school history. They'll be matched up against the Buffalo Bulls. Don't miss the first bowl game of the season. To listen to this and every bowl game, just search college football today.
Check, please.
Major League Soccer announcing a new expansion team will be awarded to Charlotte, North Carolina, its 30th franchise. The team will be owned by billionaire hedge fund titan and Carolina Panthers owner David Tepper, who paid a whopping $325 million entry fee.
Yeah, you go back and look, $2.1 billion for the Panthers, and now this for the Charlotte team, the MLS team. I mean, this dude has a lot of money.
He's got a lot of money.
He got a lot, right?
Yeah, and they're hot, soccer.
Yeah.
That does it for us on Powerline.
Closing bell right now.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the closing bell, everyone. I'm Wilfred Frost. I'm here at the FedEx Post today. That stock is down around about 1% following some competitive pressures from Amazon yesterday and ahead of their own earnings due to hit after the close today. That close, of course, just 59 minutes away. We are slightly higher on the broader market, set for record all-time closing highs once again.
And I'm Contessa Brewer in for Sarah Eisen today. Let's take a look at what's driving the action here. Divergent corporate expectations for 2020 as JetBlue and Eli Lilly forecast a strong year, but Unilever slashes its outlook. Congress is on track to pass two massive spending bills, averting a government shutdown. And new data shows home building increased more than expected in November, and permits for future home construction surged to a 12-and-a-half-year high. Joining us for the hour is Keith Bliss from IQ Capital USA, LLC. Keith, great to have you here today. The housing starts number comes on just in one more optimistic data point on the economic front.
Yeah, and I think despite trading at the all-time highs, which we have for a long time now, if you consider 2 weeks a long time, this market is still poised to go higher. That's my belief.
What drives that?
Well, there's lots of factors, which I know we'll talk about during the hour, but certainly the continued strong economic data that we're getting out of here, a very compliant and easy money Fed that we have, as well as they're expanding their balance sheet, low inflation around the world, wages are growing. You know, the need for capital to go where it gets rewarded and seek yield. I mean, all of these things, you throw them into the mixing bowl, and that means money comes to this market.
We are set for record all-time closing highs. Once again, all three of the major averages higher, only slightly higher, but anything positive is a record. Let's focus in on the big stories we're watching today. Boeing planning to halt production of its 737 MAX planes. Phil LeBeau has the latest on that story for us. Steve Leisman has a look at how those production delays could impact GDP. And Mike Santoli is tracking Wall Street's sentiment on the stock overall. But Phil, let's start with you. Hey, Phil.
Wolf, as we told you yesterday, Boeing will stop production of the 737 MAX in January. And the question now becomes, how long will the production line be down? Most analysts think it's going to be at least a couple of months, likely all of the first quarter, which sets up what can you expect if you're a Boeing investor for the first quarter and the second quarter. Ramping up of production, likely it'll return in the second quarter. Again, that's just the estimate at this point. No layoffs are planned as of right now, but if this is extended, well, that might change. There is a gradual delivery ramp up once the plane is approved again by the FAA. Meanwhile, airlines continue to slide back their dates for returning the MAX to service. Southwest is the latest. Today, it pushed back, bringing the MAX back until April 14th. By the way, Southwest MAX cancellations, if you go back from when it was first grounded all the way through next April, they'll top more than 50,000. take a look at shares of Boeing. Analysts are down in terms of what they're expecting for the remainder of this year in terms of free cash flow. But guys, if you look at all of these analyst notes, all of them say the same thing. Eventually, when these planes are delivered, they expect that free cash flow to come back, whether it's later in 2020 or move it out until 2021.
All right, Phil, stay with us here. Let's get to Steve Leisman and take a look at how Boeing's production halts could affect GDP. Steve.
You know, it may be hard to imagine, Contessa, but economists forecast that this decision to halt production of the 737 MAX is likely to have a measurable effect on U.S. economic growth in the first quarter, and the negative effects could even be larger than the government shutdown last year. Forecasters at both J.P. Morgan and Oxford say the production halt could shave as much as a half point off first quarter growth. Morgan Stanley looks for a 0.8 percentage point hit. The problem is that the first quarter was already looking weak. Now it could come closer to 1% instead of the forecast 1.6. Growth will rebound when production returns, but when is an open question. Morgan Stanley writing in its commentary, assuming production ramps back up in 2Q20, a highly uncertain timing assumption, we would expect to see more than a 100 basis point boost to Q2 GDP if it comes back in the second quarter. For now, Boeing's saying it won't lay off any of the 12,000 workers who build the 737 MAX. But if the stoppage grinds on, suppliers could find it tough to hold the line on jobs, and eventually Boeing could as well, Contessa.
Okay, so there's a lot of expectations and forecasts here. Is there any indication, Steve, what the impact has been of slowing production so far?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. They've gone down from 52 to 42 planes, and the estimates are that that's taken a tenth off of GDP. And the reason why it's so little is because Boeing's not shipping stuff, but when they make a plane, it goes into inventory. So no add to shipment, but an add to inventory. When they stop production, that blue line that's going up, that goes away, and all you get is the production decline, and that's why there's going to be a bigger measurable impact, because the add to inventory from the planes being produced and not shipped will no longer occur, Contessa.
All right, thanks, Steve.
Let's get over to Mike Santoni now for a look at what Wall Street has been saying about Boeing of late. Mike.
Well, yeah, obviously the groundings have forced analysts to play a little bit of a slower ground game when it comes to expectations for Boeing. If you look at the breakdown of analyst ratings, it's been a grudging moderation of enthusiasm over the course of this year. One thing I want to highlight, first of all, is how beloved the stock was back in January. It was before the second crash and the groundings. 83% of all analysts say buy the stock. Now, we did have this ramp into March, so the stock really did confirm that bullish take. And then you've seen it just slowly. The yellow is basically hold ratings. So right now it's somewhere around 50-50. Still, though, the gap between this green line, the price target, consensus price target, and the current price, it's about an 18% upside from here. So clearly there still is sense out there that the market could, in fact, come back to Boeing if, in fact, they get clarity on this production. Now, look at the valuation, because this also was coming off extremes. In fact, multi-year extremes at the very beginning of this year. That's the most expensive the stock has been in long time, couple decades. And there we go. At the beginning of this year, it was well over in the mid-20s in terms of a forward price earnings multiple. It's premium to the S&P 500, also at a record. And look at how that has bled away. So right now, it's actually trading at a cheaper nominal valuation than the S&P. However, one has to expect perhaps that 2020 earnings estimates are going to come down. So perhaps that PE is not quite as low as it might seem cosmetically right now, folks.
Mike, thanks very much. And stick around. Just want to go back to Phil, because on these discussions about what the analysts are saying, Phil, about Boeing, at the moment, is it fair to say that they're all still just saying this is a question of delaying cash flows and profits coming back online, as opposed to any long-term shift in market share that Boeing might have in commercial aircraft?
Correct. In terms of market share, nobody's predicting that. Now, look, this is going to hurt Boeing. You're going to see customers canceling big orders. Sure, there might be an order here or there that is converted from a MAX into a 787, and we've already seen that in the last 9 months, but we have not seen mass cancellations. The backlog, Wilf, it remains at about 4,400 planes.
So, Keith, let's talk about this. Are you surprised that there is no analyst that has a sell rating on Boeing?
I'm not surprised, because it still remains, despite the problems with the MAX jet, it still remains one of the best-run companies in the world when you take a look at it. Certainly management has made some mistakes. They've gotten the timing wrong. They were not completely transparent when the first accidents occurred. You talk to some attorneys who sue Boeing for a living. They know that they've had problems with this plane for over a year, and they just never came out of it. Those are issues. But as far as Boeing Aerospace, the company writ large, across its entire product mix and what it does, it's still a very strong company. So that's why I think the analysts are hanging in there with it. Now, having said that, the longer this goes on, the worse it becomes for Boeing. Obviously, as Phil was pointing out, there's an earnings picture that we need to be worried about. There's reputational risks that will continue to erode away. But for right now, they're taking a wait and see attitude.
Mike, was Boeing one of the sort of industrial stocks that did trade on China news? If we go back a year or so before all of the 737 MAX issues, such that if and when it gets through the current issues, does it have a little bit of a Trump trade deal bounce to enjoy that it hasn't had yet?
You know, well, not in a pronounced way. It was not really one of those big industrials, global industrials, that was at the center of that idea that the tariffs were kind of a big impediment, simply because, you know, the global duopoly was pretty much in place. I don't think it ever got to the point where people thought that the Chinese orders were very much in jeopardy for the out year. So I don't know that you have that sort of pent-up relief that's ready to be kind of released into this stock if, in fact, the MAX issues go away.
Hey, Phil, can you explain a little bit more about this support for suppliers?
You mean in terms of why the stocks have not been hammered more? Or what Boeing will be doing with them?
And Boeing says that they're going to support these suppliers during the halt in production. What does that mean? What does it look like? How long might that last?
Well, more than anything, Boeing wants to make sure that it has a stable supply chain. So support for suppliers, it depends on which supplier, how critical they are to the 737 MAX. Take a look at a company like Spirit Aerosystems. Boeing worked with them when they initially brought down their production. When Boeing brought its production from 52 a month down to 42 a month, it worked with Spirit to say, look, can we keep you building fuselages at 52 per month, which has been the case for Spirit Aerosystems. So Boeing will once again say, okay, what do we need to do to mitigate how disruptive a drop in production would be for a company like that, or for other companies that have a fairly large exposure to the 737 MAX. That's the biggest concern, if you will, for Boeing, that they have a supply chain that when they ramp up production again, the supply chain will not be able to meet that ramp up as well.
What's your sense that they're just weighing this out on sheer numbers and saying it's going to cost us more if we allow these suppliers to stop their own production lines and then have to pay to start them back up again versus keeping them in business? It's
not just a matter of cost. It's a matter of how much flow they can have through that supply chain. And we use the term disruptive. When you look at the aviation industry, you do not want it to be lumpy stops and starts. That's when you've got a lot of problems. That's when you increase your costs. And for Boeing, one of the things that they have been experts at for years is managing that supply chain. And that's why this is a crucial part of the stoppage in production of the 737 MAX. This will be the test for them. Can they keep that supply chain as smooth as possible?
And Phil, just one further point. I mean, I know Steve broke down the impact, which is significant, of course, on U.S. GDP, but it's also not as simple and clear to say that Boeing suppliers are all U.S.-based and Airbus's suppliers are all European-based. There's a lot of European suppliers suffering as well, like Safran that makes the engine for the 737 MAX in France. I mean, it's a huge global issue.
But for all of the aerospace suppliers, not just for Boeing, but also for Airbus and worldwide, the benefit right now of this stoppage in production happening when it's happening is that the global demand for commercial aircraft is at a record high. And you already have Airbus with production at record levels. That's not stopping. So these suppliers, they're not just supplying Boeing or just Airbus. Maybe some of the really small ones are, but generally speaking, they're going to see how much they can offset any slowdown at Boeing with other work, whether it's for Airbus or whether other aviation companies as well.
Phil, thanks so much for that. Mike, thank you also to Steve. And should mention as well, even if the analysts don't think there's any long-term shift, Airbus stock is up 52% this year to Boeing's, whatever it was there, 2%. So certainly some investors thinking there's a long-term shift going on. Meanwhile, the House passing a spending bill to avoid a government shutdown. And Elon Moy is in Washington with all the details for us. Hey, Elon.
Hey, Wilford, here are the three big numbers that you need to know about this spending package. $1.4 trillion, that is the cost to fully fund the government through the end of the fiscal year. $370 billion,